Hello, and welcome to the first ever Power Play Q&A. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rick Budd, and I have chosen to wear a shirt with a collar on it, so in case the questions get, a little too deep, I have something to pull on. Yeah, of course, these wonderful people, in no particular order, Caitlin Bruder, our Benny Beckett, and Sam Delev, our Cadrax, and B. Zelda, our Ulez Gali. We greet you. And Omar Najam, of course, Vion Vigor. How y'all doing?
Hecking wonderful. And really excited to answer some questions, but also a little overwhelmed at the questions, So I think this is going to be delightful.
Oh my God, yeah, so many of these questions are great, and thank you for everybody who submitted questions. But first, as usual, special thanks to Jake and Lauren and the mods and everybody at QueueTimes for doing what they do and making this platform, just amazing and available for us. We love you all. And your subs and your bits help support QueueTimes, and that is greatly appreciated. Tonight, there is no tip jar, no reward tiers or anything like that. This one's, just for the fun of it. But of course, you can always help us by liking and commenting on our YouTube videos or rating our podcast, sharing our, promotional tweets and stuff like that. We really appreciate all that stuff too. And you can get Power Play merchandise. There are T-shirts and stickers that have Caitlin's incredible character art on them. And Jake will pump that link into the chat for you. You can get that at the QueueTimes Teespring store. You can follow the show at Power Play RPG on Twitter and Instagram. And Power Play is, of course, now available as a podcast for the podcast inclined, et cetera, et cetera. Power Play Season 3 starts next week, Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, right here on QueueTimes. And as for tonight, we got a ton of great questions to get through. I'm going to try and include at least one question from everyone who submitted. I don't know how many we're going to be able to get to, but I'm going to give it my best shot. If we don't get to your question, please know that we really appreciate your submission anyway. And also, we have a special surprise for the middle of the show, so stick around for that. And that's the announcements. Time for the Power Play Q&A. Welcome back. All right, so let's just get right to this. We decided to go moderatorless, because we just thought it would be fun to ask questions of each other. I will ask questions to the individual cast members or to the group as a whole, and then I'll call on them to ask the questions that were directed at me, and hopefully it won't be a complete mess. So let's start first. We got a question from Leia Sky, who wants to know what the inspiration for the characters was. So, here, I'm going to roll for the order here. B. Zelda, what was the inspiration for Ulez Gali?
Oh, no. I don't think I had any, clear inspiration other than the fact that I think robots are cool, and I've always wanted to play a robot. So I don't know if that in itself is inspiration, my own, very powerful desires to play a creature that didn't have the emotional expression to be able to survive in Earth, and that they would eventually learn all of the feelings and all of the joys of what it is like to be a human, almost, I've always wanted to go through that, and I think Power Play has been a wonderful vessel to take Ulez through that journey.
Oh, yeah, you've been great. Oh, my God, I love Ulez. Sam Delev, tell us about Cadrax.
Like B, I don't really think of my characters as being inspired by anything. I mostly pick little definite road markers and then figure out the Sudoku puzzle of who the character is on that basis. I knew I didn't want to play like a standard human with powers because I have been in like superhero stories before and I had done that. So I was like, okay, I'll be an alien. And then I figured out like what sort of superpower I wanted to have. I was like, ice powers. No, I did that once in a home game with Rick. If he remembers that, then I would be super unoriginal. He didn't remember that. I could have just gotten away with it again. But I figured out a power that also could be used in lots of different ways. Because like you can throw an ice spike or like build like a ice wall or use ice for mobility. And I wanted something as versatile as that. And then I settled on sound. And so it was mostly just like figuring out the kinds of things I wanted and then filling the numbers of the puzzle because the 9 can't go here. There's already one over here until I ended up with a character.
And a fantastic character it is. Caitlin Bruder, tell us where the idea for Benny Beckett came from.
So when my friend and I were very little, like middle schoolers, we used to write superhero stories all the time. And just even if it wasn't like superhero genre, it was like people with superpowers, like stuff like that, powered individuals. And this friend helped me kind of when I would pitch stuff at her and she would help me come up with stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I've just rebuilt this character we wrote when we were 14, but better. And her name was Piper Rhodes. And she was just kind of an angry little Spitfire. And I didn't end up doing so exactly the same character, but it was the fire powers and the part that was to me for her was the most the thing that I wanted to use was the having this destructive ability and being afraid of it, like being afraid of a part of yourself. And I thought that would be a really interesting way to go. But Benny Beckett is 100% inspired by a character my friend and I made when I was a middle schooler.
That is so cool.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So wow, it's like I'm learning a ton already. We've had 3 answers. Okay. And Omar, talk to us about Vion.
Okay, so I want to say that it's a mix because you were talking about Justice League Unlimited when we were first talking about the show, Rick, forever ago. And I'm a huge JLU fan, like a massive, absolute JLU fan. And, you know, in the Justice League Unlimited, there is a character called Vigilante, who is this cowboy, voiced by Nathan Fillion, I believe, in the cartoon. And I just love the iconography of him. Like, I collected his comics. Like, there's something about just like a cowboy with like a bandana up that's doing some good. That's really cool. And a mixture of that and turning 30, I think at a certain point you're just like, okay, I'm becoming a ghost in a way, was like a mixture that sort of fed into this. And that's where I really believed it was until friend of the show, Dale Kingsmill, messaged me one day and said, yeah, you remember that character we came up with? Dale and I built out a comic book universe that like had like a 5-year plan and would have like a bunch of different like world, like the street team and like the celestial team, and how they would like every year would have like the crossover in the summer and stuff. And there was a character called Spirit of the West that I'd forgotten. So the answer is really I stole it from Dale.
Huh. Oh, no wonder she's hacking into your Twitter account all the time to say nice things about herself. Yeah. Oh my God, that's incredible. Wow, this is like super educational. Like I didn't know like half this stuff from anybody. Okay. All right. So that was the first group question. Now we're going to try the first one that's directed at me. Let's see how this works. B, read the first question that we gave you.
Yeah, so this is a question from Night Dragon. Rick, what is the biggest curveball that the players, us, have thrown at you?
Ooh, okay, so I saw this question when it came in, and I have been thinking about it a little bit. And this is really hard because there have been like a ton of curves. It's like yeah. Oh my God. When I play a game, it's like, it is sort of like every game turns out to be like the result of my loose expectations colliding with the actual decisions getting made. And it's like, there are little curveballs, like, like the first time B decided to pass over one of their turns to get trouble in the middle of combat, which was just like, something I almost never see in a game like anybody does. It was just like amazing. To huge curves, like Sam deciding to join up with Curtis Haber, I remember talking with someone that I bounce ideas off of before the game, and I was like, 99% chance no one is taking Curtis Haber up on this offer, but if somebody does, it's going to be Sam. So it's like, after thinking about this really hard, I would say the answer has to be in season 2 in the game called Endeavor. I had given you all the van, that the audience had bought you the van, and we got you like a turbo boost, and we got you like all this cool van stuff, and I wanted to give you a chance to use all the cool stuff on the van. So I planned out like an escort mission, where you'd capture, you'd get Declan Eklund and have to take him back to, end headquarters, and I planned this massive like car chase with like pursuits and helicopters and bridge jumps and traps and all this. I mean, I went nuts with just like every possible thing you could do, different routes you could take through Port Ruby. And then Omar is just like, all right, I'll take the van and go a different way and distract the police, and you guys take the ferry back. And I was just like, okay.
Oh my word, Rick! Oh.
Yeah,
I think I said this on stream, but before the stream, Rick sent me. He's like, "Here's all the car stats, driver," and I was like, "Oh shoot!" So I had read up on all of the like driving,
and you can hear like rules references he's dropping earlier in the episode that would pertain to a chase. Like you can hear the signals, and it makes the swerve all the sweeter.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. That's one of my favorites too. I think I love that.
Yeah, so like everything that happens from the moment that Omar does that on is 100% improv. Like, the character of Noah Rose, like created on the spot for that, now is going to become like a thing. And, and it's just like, that was just one of the ultimate, like, oh, it literally never occurred to me that they could even do that, So that's what it's got to be for me. And I know that Night Dragon also asked all of you to answer the same question, but in reverse. What's the biggest curve I ever threw at you? So why don't we go like in reverse order? We'll start with.
What? This is probably it. This is my answer.
Rick has died. Are you back with us?
Hello?
Yep, we can kind of see you.
Apparently, I did have freezing powers this whole time.
Uh-oh. What's going on?
Oh, I think you're good now. It was such a wonderful moment where you tried to like intro what is the biggest curveball that you've thrown at us, and then you froze.
Oh.
The drama, it was all there.
It was Iron Man taking Thor out in Avengers, where we were just all Loki, like, okay.
Sometimes I just do that. Yeah, I just. So yeah, Omar.
I mean, can we talk about Sam's character? I think that's the answer. Like, I want to come up with a fun creative, like, oh, what a great that panelist really came from the out of left field. No, this is right down the center at home. Like, it was just here. Like, my character is like talking about death and considering this, and then like, Cadrex and Vion had discussed it a little bit and like what immortality means and stuff like that. And then it's us, like it's us. So I'm just like, okay, and I keep having these plans. I'm just like, here's what I'm going to do. Like, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I can phase this. And then Rick, you're just like, yeah, by the way, Cadrex is dead. It's just like,
yeah.
Okay, well, great. Good show, everyone. I guess I got to go sleep now. That's it for me. I'm sorry if I stole that answer from everyone, but...
I never don't tell people about things like the power I was getting that season. I like being open with my fellow players because, like, I don't know, keeping secrets and being like he feels like such a jerk move, but occasionally Sam can have a little jerk.
And you kept it. It's not even because afterwards, like, I'm sorry, I'll say this really quickly. Afterwards, like, we were just like, what happened? Like, we didn't know any of this, right? So we're just like, what's happening? And Sam, you're just like, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. Maybe I guess I'll roll something up. We're like, what do you mean you'll roll something up,
Your casual attitude destroyed us.
I don't know how Rick let me have that power. We have like our call with Rick where like we talk about like what major change we want. And like I had a list because I assumed that one would not be allowed. I was like, I'm going to pitch you this and you're going to say no and I'm fine with it. But I have to try. And then you're just like, okay, yeah. And unfortunately, the only way to show that power in play is...
I mean,
Yeah.
that was one of certainly the biggest curves anyone ever threw at me, was when Sam asked to be immortal. And like, I thought about it for a second and I was like, our own Doctor Who, huh? It's like, it's like you can definitely create great drama with a character who can keep coming back at you. And it was just like, I don't know. It was great.
It's Cadrax. Doctor Who, Dr. Cadrax. Who that
Dr.
We finally
Cadrax,
know
that's right. Our own
answer.
doctor, yeah.
Yep.
You now know the answer to the age-old question, Doctor Who.
It's Cadrax.
Yes.
But
It's
riffing
Dill.
off of that, the swerve for me was apart from the specific moment, I really didn't think that I would get stabbed in that moment. It was really obvious in retrospect because, wow, I failed lots of social checks, but in the moment, I was a surprised Pikachu when I got stabbed. But it was the person who did the stabbing that surprised me. I had no expectation about the existence of Sunny at all. I had no clue that my mentor might have a son. I had never built that in. I never had any notion of that person's existence or ever thought that one of my people, let alone a knight, would come to our world because that's scary. Good thing that's all taken care of.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to leave you alone from here on out. Caitlin?
Yeah, actually, the most recent episode I was in, the necklace being around since the dawn of time threw me for the biggest loop. There's at the end, if you watch that episode, I'm sure I react so big, but I almost fell out of my chair. I was so I was like, I have to go. You can't do this to me. So yeah, I already had plans for the neck, what I wanted to do, thoughts about it, but then you threw me that. I was like, well, now it has to be a priority.
That moment is captured in a GIF that you can find on Twitter, which is my new favorite GIF in the world. Caitlin almost falling out of her chair.
Oh, that one got me pretty good, I will say.
B. Zelda.
Okay, my curveball, I don't even know if it's so much of a curveball and more of just I'm really easily surprised. But when you took Tules from us, I was emotionally and physically crushed. I genuinely did not think you would stoop so low as to hurt me that way. And you went for it. So personally, that's the one that hit me the hardest beyond what everybody else answered. Because Cadrax getting stabbed, I wake up in cold sweats and think about that,
Yeah, no, I'm the worst. I will. There is no bottom to how low I will stoop.
Rick.
All right, so moving along. Now we got some questions for people as individuals, and we're gonna go back again the other way. B, what is Ulez's favorite plant? Asks librarian Liz.
Yeah, the Monstera plant. Because the name sounds scary, but the plant itself is beautiful, and the more that it thrives, the stranger it gets. And there's something that Ulez finds simply wonderful about that. But their most visited are trees plants? I don't know. I feel like I should know that. We're going to leave the answer with the Monstera or a willow tree.
I love that. A nice, strong, thematic answer. That's fantastic.
Right.
It makes me love Ulez even more, which everything about Ulez does, it's really quite a knack you have.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
There was a second half to this, but I want it to be a speed round, real fast, off the top of your head. Everybody else, what's your character's favorite plant? Sam.
Hello. Because someone else already said it and you asked for the top of my head.
Caitlin.
Probably some sort of succulent or thing that can deal with heat and not have to be dealt with very often. Or
what would make you say that at this moment? Omar.
Nothing.
Coffee plant.
That's
solid.
All right, Caitlin. Did Benny ever get a chance to use her powers for fun back home, or was it all just accident and troubles? Asks Scott Maitland.
Oh, definitely all accidents and troubles. I was very excited that we got to do Benny's Baxter episode as a kid episode, because we really got to like see how long Benny's been afraid of herself, I guess. But she doesn't. That was like the first time she ever used it was in, like, on purpose, was in the solo title. And then I don't think she used it on purpose again until episode 2 or 3 of Powerplay. Like, she doesn't like using it, and so like the fact that she uses it pretty regularly now, and like the main campaign title is like huge in the timeline of how her powers have developed. She's been afraid of it since it manifested. She doesn't like using it. She doesn't like using it on purpose. Even now, sometimes it's a little much. But yeah, no, she didn't. She probably only used it on purpose that one time as a kid.
Man, that first moment where Benny burst all into flames is one of my favorite. You know, just Sam, Reverse Aquamath asks, Cadrax behaves remarkably similar to Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. Did you choose the name as a reference to that character, or was their behavior inspired by the name afterwards, or just none of the above?
I think maybe at some time it occurred to me that like Drax names existed. I play a lot of very literal characters. It is, if you go back into the Tempting Fate archive, which is like pretty much my entire range as a performer, unfortunately, you'll see that I go through those a fair amount. It's a comfort zone for me for reasons we don't need to speculate on here. But I just figured that X names sound alien, and there was a thing, wasn't there, where we both
wanted
had
to talk about that. Yes.
we both had
a
X
duel because we had both X names, and by duel I mean we were both willing to give up that letter.
Yeah.
Very Canadian kind of duel, you know. It's like, no, you take it. No, you take it. No, this is for you. And then ultimately, Cadrax became like the iconic name.
Yeah.
I think Canadian duel, where two people are trying to out-nice each other, is my new favorite expression.
It's my favorite way of describing a courtesy war I've ever heard. I would like to adopt it, please, if you would allow.
All yours. I would love
Thank
to be adopted.
It just happened.
Well, yeah. But he's so nice. Omar.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go back to Librarian Liz again, who asks, where do all of Vion's amazing story ideas come from?
Oh my gosh, life and therapy. It's just the honest answer for going quick.
Well, that pretty much says it all. All right, so let's go to Caitlin for the question from Anon.
There's a very loud motorcycle outside. So Anon asks Rick, other than comic books, what media influenced the world building of Powerplay?
Okay, yeah, obviously comic books. Certainly, the MCU, like I did sort of start off being like, I'd love to do a role-playing game that's sort of our own little MCU that's got lots of characters and lots of continuity and long-building storylines. And like Omar said, JLU, which is one of my all-time favorite cartoons of history. I mean, I just, they just are the gold standard for how to handle superhero storytelling. But then, like in a less obvious way, I would say like Avatar: The Last Airbender, the way they handle continuity and character work and theme. I just, I'm in awe of basically every single episode of that show. And then, lots of stuff shows like, long continuity shows like Lost that have sort of like, dozens of characters and building mysteries. And then less obvious stuff, and it's not a pop fave for a lot of people, but I thought a lot about the show Burn Notice, which is like sort of like a team-based mission show where like a group of 4 people are always going out and running these sort of very tightly drawn missions that, kind of seem impossible, but they kind of have to get their way through. And, it's like the writing is really cool as far as like, what does cool, fun, team-based mission stuff look like? Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's enough of that. Yeah. So the next question, yeah, we're burning through this. This is great. Okay. So speaking of people who hack into Omar's Twitter account to say nice things about themselves, the next question comes from the amazing Dale Kingsmill, who you should definitely go check out her incredible videos on YouTube. And
That is true. I'll agree to that.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite people to play with, in all those Origins games. Dale asks everybody, how did you each decide what you would write for your character's dream in the Origin episode? So let's start with Caitlin.
So I had my stipulations were it wasn't going to be how she got her powers, but also she was 13 and only had her powers for a few years. So I had a very narrow time frame with which, because I was like, I wanted it to be about fire and about like how she's been able to / unable to deal with it. So I was like, okay, I have to find a story. I've already done a happy memory, and I kind of knew where this story was gonna go, like the solo episode. And so I was like, okay, so hopefully by the end of the solo episode, she will have gotten to use her powers on purpose. That was kind of like my hope for it. So I was like, so I think I want to do a moment for her where she felt out of control, and it was frustrating and miserable, and writing from the perspective of a kid is always really fun and whimsical and sometimes really hard. So I really, yeah, I was just trying to find something that something about her, her relationship with the fire up until that point, like her earlier relationship with burning. And that was and then it just I poked at it for a long time until I finally sat down and just cranked the whole thing out. But yeah, that was just young and fire. That was yeah, that's how it came to be.
That story was fire. Oh my God, setting our emotions aflame. Yeah, oh my God. Sam Lev.
Oh, geez. This poor cast heard me agonize because I don't with writing the word things. I don't like in practice in terms of like performing the action. I do not write the word things, and many people around me with great talent do. So I freaked out. Fortunately, I Sudoku'd myself once again into what I wanted to do, because in some ways, the bonus story is about what I might have done if I hadn't done the origin that I did. That was the other kind of option. And I liked them because the mentorship resonated together. I ended up looking at 2 stories of Cadrax and mentorship with gosh, that's just a sad theme now, I guess. It's fine.
Yeah, don't sign up to be Cadrax's mentor. It's not.
It really is, but it covered a beat about Cadrax that I had been wanting to hit more directly for a while, and so it was like seizing an opportunity that I had, and then agonizing. Lots of that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you could say whatever you want, but you are a friggin' amazing writer, and that story was utterly devastating and incredible.
I will shut this whole room down.
Yeah, no, you're gonna sit there and take the nice things I have to say about you. Goddamn it, I'm gonna win this Canadian niceness. Okay,
Yes.
so B.
Yeah. So first off, you come to me and you're like, "Hey, I need a dream from Ulez," and I'm like, "Fuck, Ulez doesn't dream. What? How do I handle this?" And like, it's one thing when we met the person who was able to kind of like tap into our memories, into like our dream memories, but I interpreted that as like your data storage, like with Ulez. So I'm like, dream, how do I handle this? What do I do? And true to form, well, Sam is very good on the spot. I like to prepare 30 minutes before. So I did, and it finally came to me that like a common theme with Ulez is the discussion of how they don't understand death They don't understand murder. There's just so much about the afterlife that does not register with their own conscious because it's what they've never grown up with that. So the idea of the dream being when Ulez was being upgraded, as they grow up, their parts change. They start to fulfill whatever role they have gone to school for, that it just kind of felt right to be able to make this dream sequence about their upgrade and the things that they saw and feeling that like inkling of ambition because it was another Ulez's memories that kind of get passed down through the storage, be it in the arms, be it in the head, be it in the eyes. And then that just kind of grew on its own and it became something that I really fell in love with. So Rick, shout out to you for asking me for a dream.
Yeah, honestly, it's like I had no idea what you were going to do with that, and then it was like, it was the coolest, most creative kind of thing, to see what a dream for Ulez was and where that would fit in. Yeah, so it was so good. They were all so good. Omar.
I am a real big Neil Gaiman fan. As I started to say, I'm like, we're all nerds, so that's like a very unnecessary thing to have to say. One of my favorite Neil Gaiman stories is about a man who gets lost in a city for some reason, and he's like, I have no idea where I am. And at the end, you find out the city itself was dreaming, and he got lost in the city's dream. And so it's like you're in a space, but you're not in a space at the same time. And that's always been really interesting to me, like that kind of vocabulary. And so when Rick, you're like, we're gonna do some dream stuff, I was like, oh, specifically a dream, great. Let's get weird. I know that Sam and Caitlin are gonna raise the bar really high, so I got to get creative to try to compete with this. But within that, what to do? And I come from like everything I like to do is like very group minded, which is why this show is an absolute dream. And whether it's like improv or like or writing or like filmmaking or something like that, it's like collectively, what are you like? Sacrifice ego. What around you? What is around you? Like, what's the energy you can pick up on? And for the one shot, it was you, Rick, who you were a lawyer, and I was just talking to Dale before the one shot, and Dale was like talking about possibly being a lawyer and how good she is. She in chat right now? Do we know?
I can't see the chat. Hang on.
Okay.
I've been poking through chat. I have not seen. I don't know what their.
Okay, great.
Name is. Yeah, you're good. Say what you got to say.
If she's not, hopefully she's not here because I don't want her to hear me say this. She is brilliant and she would make an incredible lawyer. I think she would make a good TV lawyer. But don't ever tell her I said this. But it occurred to me I was gonna have to be on screen with two of the most brilliant people I know, who both had recently talked about like law and being like lawyers. So I was like, this is how I can just wedge myself into that little pool of talent is just become a dream lawyer for one quick second. And so that was that it all just came. You know what? Actually, I did write a whole thing before and I scrapped it because it was really sad. So I just went with that one instead because I thought that was better.
Oh, dude. First of all, you don't have to be smart to be a lawyer. Trust me, I know a million moron lawyers. But also, nobody tell Dale what Omar said. Wink, wink.
No, seriously, do not feed her ego.
Nudge,
I'm not
nudge.
joking about this.
Clip.
I mean, all those stories were just so incredible. Honestly, it's like I would love to do that again sometime. You can shake your head at me, Sam DeLem, but all right. So yeah, that was
I can even ask you questions is what I can do, Rick, because I am next up in the Q&A order, and I also have a question from Dale. What are you going to do now, huh? You're going to answer the question from Dale, which is, casting NPCs using famous actors is a staple of this show. So what sparked that idea, and how do you think it's influenced the genre of the story? And are there other GM tricks up your sleeve that you use to guide the mood of the story? First off, show us your sleaves. Show us there's nothing in there. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing up my shorts. They're short sleeves tonight, so it's. But yeah, like originally, my thought was that using actors, it's kind of just a shorthand to save myself from having to describe. I knew I was going to need a lot of NPCs in a big cast, and a lot of them would be coming back. And it's like just like sort of a shorthand for having to describe, instead of just being like it's an old man, you could be like it's James Cromwell, and suddenly like there's a face and there's like a vibe to an actor, who usually it's like they play bad guys or they play smart like nerds or scientists or something like that. But also it was part of like again, I kind of wanted it to feel like our MCU, and when part of that is being like, oh wow, look, do you see they cast Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and it gives it a little bit of specialness, and I don't know, it became just part of like a staple of how I plan stuff now, and it's made it very easy on me as far as like. Now when I come up with a new NPC, I'm just like, I hit IMDb and I'm like, actors who play bad guys, actors who play scientists, actors who
Hold on. Do you actually search for names, or does this not all just come from that like mind palace in your brain?
Both. It's like sometimes I'll immediately be like, oh, I know who this actor is, and then sometimes I'll be like, wow, who's a good scientist actor? And I'll be like, okay, and then you can literally go to Google and just be like actors who play scientists, and like a whole list comes back, and yeah, I mean, because it's like it gets hard after a while when you've cast like 10 bad guys to be like, oh no, I've already used that guy, so it's like, that's certainly part of it. And as for like the second half of the question, are there any other GM's tricks up my sleeve to guide the mood of the game? Just have really smart, cool players, and like kind of like follow them. It's like one of my favorite things to do is find the moments where I can shut up and let the players just sort of marshal everything by themselves. And it's like, I kind of a lot of people like games that are totally off, like sandboxes, and some people like games that are like on rails and have very clear courses. And I sort of feel like the best stuff is like sort of a combination where like, the rails take you to a place and give it a little bit of meaning, but then you take your hands off and you let the players like sort of take that to a place that you never thought was coming. And it's like, I don't know, this is weird, I don't want to get carried away with this answer, but it was like one of my favorite bands is Fish. Like I'm a big jam band guy, and it's like they do this thing where like they have songs that have sections that are really intricately composed and they play exactly the same, and then they intersplice that with sections that are just totally improvised, and especially when you're new to the band, like you can barely tell which one's which, and it makes for this incredibly exciting mix where it's like this magic trick where you're just like, oh my god, how did they all know to do that then? Oh my god, oh, is this are they making this up? Did they were what's going on? And it's kind of like this game is sort of like a GMing equivalent of that, where like little parts of it are, that are on rails so that we can create a context that makes the improvised sections feel like they are meaningful in a sense, instead of just, people wandering around and bumping into each other. And I don't know, not every game is the same. I always like kind of wince whenever a GM is, or whenever somebody's like, GM should never do this or always do that, and it's like, it's whatever's fun for you and your players. And it's like, I just, for this particular crew, it's like, I just, I love watching them do their thing. So it's like, yeah, like have cool players, give them a cool context, then get out of their way. And the moods will build themselves. Yeah, okay, I babbled enough. So
I will say, when I joked that Knives Out 2 is being cast like an episode of Power Play, it was a joke, but I am entirely serious.
Yes.
Yeah, that movie's got a cast. Oh my god. So yeah, thank you, Dale, for the questions. We love you, and if Dale ever hears this,
Hey, Dale in chat, they just popped in. Just so you know, Omar.
Oh, Dale's in chat. Hello, Dale. We love you. And I definitely want to bring Destiny back. Oh my god, I'm already thinking about how Destiny's coming back and when, if Dale is game. So, all right. For the whole group. Merlin Monroe et alia wants to know, what is the weirdest superhero story and or a comic book that you enjoy, and did it affect how you approached the game? So let's start with Omar.
Yeah, Ecstatics, baby. big Ecstatics fan over here. I think I love Okay, Marvel's X-Men umbrella term, and then there's a bunch of teams under that. I've always been an X Factor fan because it's like the group of X-Men that they're just like, we don't know what to do with them, so just have them do some fun stuff. Ecstatics is like it's like if the Breakfast Club was mutants, but they like didn't get in detention. Like it's not even that, like the stakes aren't even that. And I think it's just finding like I love Ecstatics because you have these super interesting characters like the X-Men, where you've got like Cyclops and Jean Grey, and they're like, what are we going to do with them? They're so interesting. We'll send them out into space and they'll like meet the Shi'ar and stuff. And you're like, wow, those are really big stakes for these really big characters. But like, also like, I do want to know what's up with like, what is it like for Jean Grey to go to Trader Joe's and go grocery shopping? Ecstatics does that where they just pull it all in and they're just like, what's like, if you are just like this amoebic blob, what's it like to take the bus? And stories like that. And so I think for me, like that, I think is the oddest superhero story because it's just very fun and like quite often wholesome, unless I'm forgetting some stuff. But like the idea of a bunch of weirdos coming together, I think is great because I know that there is a superhero aspect where it's like these are the most handsome and perfect people, and it's propaganda stuff from 1940s bullshit. I love like the weirdos who are like, I don't know what to do. You don't either. Let's be friends. And I think that sometimes this show has that energy.
Cool. Good answer. Caitlin.
So I'm gonna out myself here as a comic artist who doesn't read very many comics. But I don't think I'd be able to give a specific one, but growing up, I really loved X-Men, and I liked their vibe, I think, more than like most superhero specific genre stuff. But Benny specifically was, like I said, childhood character pieces, but I really love mundane stories, like things that are super just like small singular moment. Like if you look at the comics that I make, yeah, you'd know that about me. Just like things that can be like condensed into very like minuscule, like how does this, how does this mundane moment matter in like, the grand scheme of something greater? And so I think, Omar, you're definitely going to have to send me some recommendations for what you were specifically talking about, because that's basically how I built Benny. Was she's just a guy, just a person who also starts on fire sometimes. Like I just wanted her to have this very mundane, very like relatively happy and chill childhood aside from the fire stuff, and now the adventure comes later. And that's something I do with a lot of RPG characters that I play. I like that particular formula, and I like a lot of stories that have that vibe in them. So I don't think I can give a particular answer, but in a broad sense, that.
I was gonna say Caitlin's comics, but I didn't want to put you on the spot. That was gonna be one of my answers.
I know.
Totally legit answer. Be Zelda.
All right, I'm going to provide one of my answers, as I have been doing, where I answer the question, but I'm going to twist it a little bit in the sense that, so I didn't necessarily grow up with comics either. My flavor of tea was anime. So one of the most influential shows and mangas that I read growing up was Dragon Ball Z. And it follows a lot of these similar tropes, you have to save the world, you have to fight your rival. The rival might turn out to be a good guy, but he's still a bit of a dick. There's really cool science thing. The battles are just beautiful and epic. And I know a lot of people I realized a lot of people, because Dragon Ball Z was so prolific in North America, that it wasn't, not as many people read the manga, because in the early 2000s, it just wasn't as popular as a medium. But if you were to ever go back and just like reread that content, like Toriyama does such a wonderful job. And that's been one of my major inspirations. I'm a sucker for saving the world. I love, love, love the power of friendship. And I also love battles that might last anywhere from 5 to 10 episodes.
Good answer. By the way, has anything exciting happened in your life along the lines of anime or manga or anything like that?
Who knows? Maybe I'll mention something at the end of the stream. You never know.
Yeah, you can never tell these things. So stick around at the end of the stream for what could be some exciting news, or what maybe nothing. You never know.
You gotta find out. You gotta wait.
And Sam Belev.
Well, Omar kind of snaked. The weirdest like superhero comic stuff I will ever read is always going to be like X-Men goes to some pretty weird places, and also I read a lot of X-Men because I found like genetic mutations that give you superpowers that also have downsides to be really intensely relatable. I'm bendy. But I purposefully tried to not do an X-Men like superhero for this one, in the same vein as like why I wasn't playing a human. I wanted to go to like a different sort of place. So there's like 8 different things that I ripped off, and I think if you rip off 8, it's okay. You need to like rip off a certain number, and then you've ripped off enough of them, and you put them in a blender. So like maybe I was thinking of Drax. I don't know. I don't remember anymore. It went in the blender. But there's a lot of runaways. Like aesthetically, Carolina Dean, yoink, just turn down the saturation. There you are. That's the look. Zavin just like was in my mind of like an approach and a relationship to humans, and also just like not really relating directly to human concepts of embodiment and the way they related to that. There was some Vast thrown in there, I'm sure. There is some really obvious Captain Marvel ripping off and repurposing, like and it wasn't until I was well into the show that I realized that the arc that I had done, whoops. And then there's like a side of like some Overwatch heroes, because I was playing a whole lot of Overwatch at the time, and like Reinhardt and was sort of like a tonal inspiration for the Knights of Harmony in a lot of ways. I remember sending Rick Budd a cinematic of just like, this is how losing Sonneville made me feel.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, and whoever plays that Reinhardt, like, sounds like he must be a handsome, charming devil.
Yeah, you know.
Whoever that might be.
Extremely adept at punching Nazis as well, I'm told.
Yeah, I've heard that about whoever it is. That's super cool. Yeah, and I believe once you hit 8 people in a blender, they stop calling that ripping it off, and they start calling it
a felony,
influences.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes, a felony. That's what. Cool. All right. So again, for everybody, what characters from the origin stories of the other cast members are you most excited to have your character meet?
Can I jump in on this one immediately?
Yeah, go.
Priya. I mean, I don't even know how they'd interact with Ulez, but they stole my heart, and I want that meeting. I want their dorky conversations. I need that energy. Like, I could not look away. They were just everything to me. So that's for me. That I think that would just be delightful, you know?
Yeah, Rave is the best. She was great on Tempting Fate, and when she told me about Priya, I sat down and wrote her up a list of like 10 urban legends from Benny's hometown. And I was like, some of these might have something to do with the game, some of them might not. So like throughout the game, she's constantly like guessing stuff, you know, from the list. And it was just like, it was the most, you know, it was the best thing. So yeah, I would love to get Rave back sometime. Let's go to Caitlin.
I think on like, I don't know. I was thinking about this. Like, I have such a smaller pool to pick from because I played with the most players. It should be easier for me to choose. But so many. Like, who I forget Markia's character's name.
Rika.
Rika.
Fisher.
Yeah.
Have a great time with. I think that would be extremely fun. And I also, while I was watching Beyond Story 2, I feel like Benny would be just like enamored by Destiny.
I can see that. I think that'd be a really good pairing, actually. I look forward to that.
God, yeah, two characters I would love to get back. Honestly, I want to bring them all back. All the guest stars did such a damn good job. Sam.
I think Catrax and aliens always get along interestingly. Catrax and humans always get along entertainingly poorly. So I'm gonna kick this one to Will from Benny's story, because there are good reasons for those characters. Like there are points of resonance, so to speak. I think those would be fun together.
Yeah, Drac was fantastic. Oh my god, another character I'm dying to get back. And oh my god, Omar.
I will say, Laser played who I used to be as a kid. Max played who I am destined to be as an older man. So I think that would be a lot for me to handle. But I while watching our first one shot, while watching Cadrax's one shot, I was just like, I know Eddie, and when it is all safe, I will be contacting him about training how to fight. Omar, I need to learn, but I want to learn the way he teaches, because as he talked through it, something made sense to me. And I think that as much as Vion wants to train with Cadrax to just get a little bit better and a little bit more useful sometimes in some of those instances, I think that there is some sort of like important element with learning it in like a spiritual and philosophical way that just flooded that one shot and just gave it such a form and such beauty that I was like, this is the best 1980s training montage film. It is the best. Go through from 1980 to the December 31st, 1989. Watch every single movie that came out. You will not find a better fighting film that just tells you you're not fighting against someone, you're fighting for yourself. I thought that both of you did such a great job, so that's my answer.
The emotional wisdom of those two people playing emotionally wise characters would be so powerful. Like, I love that resonance, and also we'll talk about that later.
Great, I would like that.
Yeah, Eddie Doty is the man, and Dexter was fantastic. He's definitely coming back. I got plans for Dexter. He's off doing something with Jonathan Fripp that we're going to have to pay off. So, yeah, okay. Okay, Alan McKenzie. I forgot to. The last question was from Gemini Lightning, by the way. So this next one's from Alan McKenzie. What theoretical team up would each character like to have with another superhero? Let's start with Omar.
Okay. With an existing superhero?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's say Marvel, DC, independent, whatever you want.
I feel so spoiled because I genuinely feel like Destiny was like that was the epoch for Beyond. That's as good as it's gonna get for that man. So a part of me is like thinking like Martian Manhunter maybe a little bit. That would be interesting. Maybe no, you know what? Let's just go right to the source, Rick. Why are we talking about this for so long today? The Spirit. I think it should either be the Spirit or the Phantom. I think the Vion should see where this idea like has come from. The Spirit, Phantom, or Zorro. I feel like those would be the folks just for Vion to be like, okay, got it. I think he needs that. I think he needs a little bit of just like, all right, sir. Got it.
At least one of those characters is in the public domain, I think. So we might be able to do something with that. But we'll talk. Yeah, go. Great answer, man. B.
Okay, so I think I might have a generic answer for this for a change. So like I'm not super up to date with like Marvel or DC, but I've seen the Avengers, and my favorite like of that entire genre of films is Thor Ragnarok. I just whatever like her name is, Hera, just a total babe, and Thor an icon, and Loki. I just like so those three characters. If like one-on-one, Ulez got to spend a day with like Loki, Thor, and is her name Hera? Like
Yeah, the
with
bad
a
guy, yeah.
wonderful like headpiece that I need to
Hela?
own. Hella, thank you. I just think that would be interesting because they're all technically aliens, but they still, to me, have a very like earthly feeling to them. So, like a day in the life of like Ulas and Thor, I need that in my soul.
Well, Thor is definitely in the public domain, so we can definitely do something with that.
Okay.
Sam Dwev.
Oh no, I'm sitting here struggling so hard because, like, to me, since I don't have an answer, I'll talk about the thought process that I'm going through trying to find it. Because it's which characters would be in dialectic with something that Cadrax needs to know right now. So, like, at an earlier point, like if you asked me in season 1, it would probably be someone with, like your Jean Greys, who has very large powers, but also power incontinence issues. Like learning how to cope with powers that pop off in ways you don't want them to. I think now in season 2, Cadrax would benefit into three. Oh my gosh, it's coming up. I'm so excited. Of someone whose power puts them in like a particular relationship to society, because being an Eversinger puts Cadrax in this weird, like, chosen one cultural construction with respect to the Star Choir, and I would be interested to interface them with some other hero in that position relative to theirs, and then let them learn from each other, or like see what Cadrax learns from the contrast. So while I don't have an answer, that would be the line of investigation I would take to get one.
Good answer, though. Man, I like listening to you analyze stuff.
That's good. It's all that's on the menu.
So wait, who's Caitlin? Would you? Yeah, Caitlin.
Not to be like same, but like that was kind of the same thought. I'm also someone who I'm not going to be able to pull a specific name, but Benny never had a mentor or like anyone in her life who like could relate to what she was going through on a literal level. And like, I think she just needs someone who like, it's like, I get it, buddy. Like, we're gonna work through, like, you've got some internalized issues here, and we can like work through it. Like, literally the only name I can think of would be like old man Professor X style, like, this is a gift, like this is part of who you are, like something like that, like someone who went through the same or at least adjacent things that she did, of like, I'm dangerous and I have thought about myself like that since I was 9 years old. Like how do you overcome that? She needs a lot of very specific therapy that like she has never gotten in her life. So some sort of like mentor figure with like more worldly experience in the realm of like superpowers specifically. Like I can't give a name, but like, yeah.
Can I request?
Yes, please.
I would. This is definitely not public domain, but Benny and Faith from Buffy.
I know Buffy.
I went to the Valley and Faith immediately. I was like, wait, Jodie Hauser's face?
Oh no, that would be incredible. Sorry, yeah, both correct.
But also Faith from Buffy, yes, 1,000 times yes. How can you've never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
We gotta do a night. We do.
I will watch whatever. I'm similar to Sam, and I have a little bit of a pop culture void where there's like things that like I've seen, like I've seen stuff like as a kid, one of my like some of my favorite films were shows from the 1970s. So like I don't like
interesting.
I have a very weird like Swiss cheese grasp on pop culture.
I think with Sam, you and myself, we all are, you know, it's really Rick and Omar that are the glue holding the Swiss cheese together.
I realized this a while back. Grading on a curve of like not professional Hollywood screenwriters, we're fine. They're blowing the curve, okay? We don't need to feel bad. They're just blowing the curve.
Don't loop me in with him. I had a Blockbuster pass. That's why. I had a library card. That's why. When I talk to Rick, I'm like, yeah, what about like this comic book? And then Rick will be like, which run? And I'll be like, oh, whoa, we're getting real into the thick of it, aren't we?
Oh, I love it.
I'm still in the general, man. Rick is the one who's pitching to himself and hitting it out of the park. So that's
please, I'm nothing. Try talking comic books with Amy Dowling someday. It's like, that's the real like which run person, it's like, oh my god.
But she would never she's just so gracious about it. This is what you find at like the true people who truly blow the hell out of the right end of the curve are so good about it because everyone knows less than they do. So they have to learn to be gracious humanoids or they get thrown out a window. So you end up with a survivorship bias.
That's beautiful. I believe in that.
So I just want to back up like a tiny bit. Like, Caitlin, that answer was incredible. It was like almost as moving as an actual episode of the show. And I'm going to spend a lot of time thinking about what you just said. I have
a lot of thoughts and feelings about one Benny Bennett.
If there are any Batman the Animated Series people here, I couldn't help but thinking of, that episode with Ace from the Royal Flush Gang, Omar. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good.
Yeah.
Can I throw a question to you, Rick?
Yeah. Actually, it is up to you to ask the next question, but yeah, go ahead.
Great.
Improvise one.
No. This is from John.
Oh, you okay? Yeah. Then it is time for that question. As a matter of fact, good.
That's
good
incredible.
Guess. How did you know?
I don't know. I felt it. I love this question. I cannot wait to hear you discuss this because you've given us teasing little bits, but I feel like this is such a personal thing to you, Rick, and we get to play in your playground. I really want to make that clear. Like I love being just around the stuff that you build. The question from John, there's two parts. The second one I'll ask after you give your answer, Rick. But the first part is, what are the inspirations for Port Ruby?
Ooh, I mean, obviously New York, and it was like sort of, I didn't want to, I wanted to have our own metropolis or Gotham City or a place that could have its own personality and character and not have to be a real thing, I didn't want the people watching, I didn't want the audience to feel like they had to know anything about New York City, that it was, you would need to understand New York before you could understand the show or something. So even though it's like geographically similar to New York, like the rest of it's kind of just whatever we make up and you only have to know what's in the show. And I also, not to, go into too sticky real world stuff. It's like, I didn't want to have our characters have to either take sides for or against stuff like the NYPD or the New York mayor's office or things that might have real life, negative consequences and attachments and stuff. And now, we can do whatever we want with this city as far as, creating what things are like. The show seems to have developed a pretty strong all cops are bad energy anyway, but at least it's, it is on our terms. And honestly, it's like, I guess I was really thinking about Metropolis and Gotham and everything in the Marvel universe takes place in a real place, not Asgard or anything, but most Marvel heroes operate in New York or LA or something like, and I wanted, like DC style where it's like everything's in Metropolis or Gotham or Fawcett City or one of these, places.
Rick, can I jump on this and tell you, because again, I've got a very different perspective than you do, and I'm really enjoying seeing how you see this. And let me tell you how I see Port Ruby. Grand Theft Auto, 100%. You've got your little sections, you've got your areas that you can visit. Sometimes there's a bridge that you have to cross, there's water involved, mini map included, especially after we got our van. I personally got really, really strong GTA vibes. So I like your almost like animated kind of POV.
I will take that. Although I gave up on Grand Theft Auto, I think it was 3 or 4. There was this mission you had to do with a remote controlled helicopter, and like the swaying of the view from the helicopter like literally made me nauseous as I was trying to. I must have tried it like 50 times, and I was like on the edge of having to throw up, and I was like, "What? Never playing this game again."
Oh my goodness! You got to get you a friend to beat that for you. You know. Honestly, Amy, step up.
To piggyback off of what B is saying, it is like every so often we get into the van or something and the radio turns on and it gives me the ultimate GTA vibes of like, here's some news that might be important to you. And then you'll just like trail off on the other bits. And I'm just like, oh, that lucky VO actor.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Oh, like the news updates are one of my favorite things, honestly. It's like, but yeah, no, every time it's like, yes, it's like, I think of Grand Theft Auto for some reason. I think of, what is it, Outfield, Josie's on a vacation far over, that song.
Yep.
It's like, it's on one of those Grand Theft Auto soundtracks. And I remember like cruising around with that, like, anyway.
There's a part 2 that I want to throw to everybody from John, which is as players and GM, what goes into how you conceive of and think about life in Port Ruby? I'll throw out my answer real quick, just to rip a Band-Aid off. I wish I lived in Brooklyn. I wish I could afford to live in Brooklyn. So that's what I pour into Vion's apartment. my dream life in Brooklyn. That's my answer.
I think that's solid. Mine's the GTA answer. So yeah, Caitlin, go for it.
I just feel like Ruby feels so like grounded and lived in. Like everything that Rick has brought to us, and I don't know if I said this on stream before, if I just talked to like you guys about it, but like it just from the beginning it like felt like such a real place. And I've been to New York like once or twice, but like never more than like a day, not in any way that would make it seem like anything but like, oh, New York, like a fantasy place, like anything more than that in my brain. So I don't, Port Ruby like in my mind feels more real to me than like the actual city of New York does. So everything that's been brought to it by everyone just makes it so easy to like settle in and be like, I'm here now. Like I know this place now. Like I know like Beyond's apartment feels like this. Even the office, when you got the office, like right away, I was like in my head, I can picture it so clearly. Like this is another place that's home base for us, and I know we can go down to Sandy's like storage like house. Like it feels so real, and that makes it so easy to just be like grounded in it. And I don't really have anything to bring to it. It's easy to just feel like I'm there, and that it's not a reach. It doesn't feel hard to like be in Port Ruby.
I really love the video game analogy because it's a wonderful way of describing how I feel in Port Ruby if I look at like how video games handle setting, which is that there is sort of like broadly some stuff about it in data storage. And until you go there, they don't load in the textures, the polygons, like none of those are all popped in. And one of the things I love about Port Ruby is that anywhere I actually am at the moment feels real and grounded and like a place. But I know that if I make something up that we haven't ever talked about, that the polygons will be happening very quickly and the textures will be being loaded in for that kind of space when I get there. It's like the van is a hidden loading screen, and it's not that makes the setting less real, it's that it makes the setting more collaborative in that like the destination will be influenced by why we are going there as characters and what we want to do. It's responsive in the way that a pre-scripted destination never would have been. If Rick actually had every single building of Port Ruby written out, it would be a place that we as players react to, but didn't shape. And we shape it with our reactions, certainly, drastically sometimes. But I feel as a player like there's much more resonance with who my character is at all these places I go, because I know Rick is building it in response to what we do as well and why we're there. The textures pop in.
I love you, Sam. I'm gonna give myself a Sam hug one of these days. It's been too long.
It has. I'll say nice stuff about you all day, Rick Bud.
Oh, stop
That's
it.
why we're here.
Oh, stop it. Don't make me fire you.
Try me.
Yeah. No, it's like, having I grew up in and around New York, and I've lived in every borough and on Long Island, and in Hoboken, like across the river and stuff. And it's like having lived there, many different periods of my life when I was like a teen going to the hardcore clubs versus like when I was a lawyer, like going to the courthouses. It gets a little bit easier for me to like sort of just improvise off of New York sort of wide assortment of settings. So if somebody's like, I want to do something, I could like just go through my head and just be like, okay, that sounds like they're talking about, the rail yards by the West Side Highway. Okay. And then I just like picture that and start describing that, that setting. Which is like kind of like what I used as the model for where the glass tower turned out to be. It's just like, okay, those big empty rail yards by the by the highway. So that's thank you, John, for that question. Okay, so we got another question from Anon for everybody. Are there any decisions that you wish your character had made differently? And if so, what was it? And what do you wish that they had done instead? I think B's got an answer.
Pick me. Beat the shit out of those jerk-faced dudes that were bullying Sandy. I know I was playing into Ulez, but like I still think about that. Literally any other character I would have played would have kicked their asses. But that's just not Ulez. And I still think about like how differently everything would have been had they just chosen violence right at the beginning.
Yes, folks, remember, violence is always the answer. That's the moral of Power Play.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I remember that. Yeah. I remember it was like trying to, those first few games, like you would, still like Ulez is a very, very action averse character, which, one of the most interesting things about them.
That's what makes them them.
Yeah, seriously. Caitlin.
I only really have like a kind of jokey answer, and it's that I wish I wouldn't have tried to climb the elevator shaft, because that was not for anyone involved watching. It was just watching me succeed and then fail and then succeed and then fail, and I didn't get anywhere. And you put precious airtime on me failing climbing an elevator shaft, and I would have much rather watched Ulez up in the office.
No, I loved all that. That was so good.
It was iconic for Benny, Benny struggles. Like, I don't know what it is about the other players, like with us, but we seem to just succeed more naturally. And then there's Benny's, and I love her complications. I love watching her just have to fight that much harder to accomplish whatever it is that everybody else is doing. So, I loved it.
Yeah, like as Yoda says, like
I love it when Benny fucks up. Like I love it when bad things happen. But usually it's a little bit more like interesting to watch than
like Yoda says, it's like learn more from failure we do, it's like it's fantastic storytelling advice from Ryan Johnson right there. It's like watching characters fail again and again, in the face of adversity is much more entertaining than watching them succeed. It's like, you would have climbed a ladder. Sam Delev.
I have this rule, like an internal rule, as you can tell from my continual like Sudoku analogies and everything. I create for myself a lot of internal rules because creativity comes from constraints, and so if I build a ton of them, I must be creative, right? No, but I do it anyway. And so one of them is that if I regret a decision, I have to build out story so that it retroactively doesn't make me unhappy. Like for real. Rick brought up Curtis Haber and Cowdrax going with him. And though I don't regret that, it's an example of I had to build forward because I completely in the moment was just a tired little dummy and not picking up that like Rick probably intended like the team to unify by rejecting the lesser angels of our nature. And what I saw was pattern of reject, 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 and I'm like, okay, I'll do the subvert and accept. I found the wrong pattern, and then I had to try to find a way to make that work so that I didn't regret the choice I made in the moment. So sometimes I don't succeed, but the story succeeds for me. My actual answer to this question is not that. That's just, yeah. But it was my mentor at the hospital, and how Cadrax's last time seeing her was just like this very hands-off kind of moment. Because, the character doesn't know that they're not going to come back to the hospital, like everything's going to be fine. And so it makes for this character relationship that's like very dry and hands-off in a character relationship that had been very dry and hands-off. And it wasn't until Origins where I now see that she was Cadrax's third mentor to contextualize why that decision in retrospect doesn't make me unhappy. It is an arc of a need to detach because of continually losing that I was not responsible for, but saved me from my own regrets. So thank you, the people around me.
Oh. By the way, that Curtis Haber decision could single-handedly change the entire course of the season. Like, I wound up a completely different back end than anything I ever imagined. Like, I've told the cast before, I would not have named our chief antagonist Mickey Bomberg if I knew his plan was going to have a big bomb. It's like a little on the nose. It's like and it's just like. I had a completely different ending in mind, and then after Sam ran Curtis Haber into a stoplight or into a street light, I was just like, well, this would change everything for him now because they would know about him, and like this derails his whole plan, and I was like, oh my god, like there goes everything. So it's like, yeah, oh my god. So yeah, that was quite a thing. Omar.
A big aspect of Vion is learning to move past regret in a way. And it's more about like, how do you move forward? Like, take what you've learned and how do you move forward? So I guess I'll kind of like, I'll pull a B and I'll answer it with a twist. I think that Vion has 3 lessons going forward. I think one is if someone has a shield, check the other sleeve. I think the other, it's pretty. It's a hard lesson to learn.
You're killing me, man.
Hard lesson to learn. Second is if you're breaking into someone's house, check the closet for a little bit of a crossbow, maybe. That's the second one. And I think the third is don't send someone to go get tea if you don't expect to be there when they return, because that's incredibly rude.
That's my favorite. Omar.
Like life lessons that like Zoom writes over. It's just like single page, like just goes on a page, like
Matter on the fridge.
Yeah.
Like future generations of superheroes that are just like that specific.
It's a little faded.
Yeah.
It's like, Spider-Man's got with great power, but we have check the closet for a crossbow. That's good.
Well,
I remember pinging a closet like in a later episode just to look for a crossbow for you.
Just in case.
In all fairness, you did search the closet. You just didn't roll very well.
Yeah.
The real moral of the story is learn to roll die better.
I do have new dice.
Yeah, there you go. So okay. Let's take, what time is it? 6:18. All right, B. Why don't we do the questions from the obsequious diphthong?
Yeah.
And then we'll get to our other thing.
All right, fabulous. So Obsequious Diphthong asks, Rick, I'm interested in what prompted a need for the icon system to be hacked for the purpose of doing power play. Or just basically, what are the fundamental differences between the base icon system and the hack that is played? Is it primarily thematic, or is it power levels, or something else entirely?
Okay. And then there are 2 other questions that go on the end of this that I'll just answer as we go. But it's like, perfect. Okay, so for those, it's like, when I started doing the show, I looked at, I think, literally every superhero system going back to the dawn of time. Like I looked at Marvel superheroes from the '80s, like everything. And I was really considering using mutants and masterminds for a while, but it was a little too crunchy, I thought, for my purposes. Like I kind of like a game that's very fluid. And mutants and masterminds, it's like it's very crunchy and very rulesy, which gives it like a lot more definition than this game. And then in researching that one, I found Icons, which is by the same guy, Steve Kenson. And it's like the exact opposite, whereas like everything in Mutants and Masterminds is measured and very spelled out. Icons is meant to be very approximate and loose. The problem was that Icons is really just designed for like games that are one session or two sessions, and the characters you make are at like a super high level. Like so, it's like if you want to play as like the Avengers or something like that. And if you follow the directions for character creation, you wind up with like very powerful characters. And I wanted to do something that started people out like street level one power that was very low in power and really build people up like slowly over the course of the series. So it's like our hack, which I made with Rich Molina Weber, who is just a friggin' rules genius. Check him out. He does Owlbear Soup over on Saving Throw, the old home of Tempting Fate. And Rich sort of helped me figure out kind of how to rejigger the character creation process to make low-level characters, and then kind of how to rejigger some of the rolling rules so that those characters would be able to interface with the rules as they exist and build over time. And then we also had to change the changes system. Like in Icons, there are minor changes, moderate changes, and major changes, which are supposed to happen over time, but like they didn't all quite make sense anymore given like all the other changes we made. So we eliminated some of them and added some new ones for ourselves. And actually just did that again. We originally had minor, moderate, and major, just like in the real game. And going into season 3, me and Rich and Sam sat down and had a little conference. And now we're just going to have minor changes and major changes. So we've now rejiggered it again into sort of just two pools that have different options in them. And yeah, and like thematically, yeah, again, it's sort of like that game is sort of for like big, powerful superheroes having very kind of Avengers, Justice League style combat. So we had to like sort of grind it down so it was more about like, ordinary people who just like have a power and are getting mixed up with things that are, just a little bit above their head each time, but not, I didn't want anyone to get drowned, which is why sort of we started off the first season fighting mostly just like, gangsters and stuff and people without powers, and one guy who had one power, and that ratcheted up in the second season a little bit. Well, I guess we had the vampires and stuff, but like, and then, and we'll probably continue to ratchet up, throughout, following seasons. And then on the heels of that one, Captain America 777 asked, "Can we get a write-up of the hack?" And specifically in regards to character creation. And Fireboss asked, "Did you use random power selection, or did players build their characters with points?" So to answer both of those in reverse order, the players built their characters with points. I think initially I gave them 22 points to spend. And I basically told them you can do anything you want. Think of anything you've seen in Marvel or DC: aliens, people born with their powers, robots, Thor-type gods. Anything you've ever seen, is fair game. But you only get 22 points to build it. And I think I put like some restrictions, like no time travel powers, because like I just I don't want to have to deal with all of the craziness involved with the plot churning. So other than that, it's like, it was all just point based. And as far as like getting a write up of the hack, I think I would be game for that. One of the things I sort of regret was that like I kind of wanted people to be able to keep track of like the characters and like their changes as they came in, and we have no budget for this show, and it's basically just whatever me and Jake can kind of string together as far as two producers. So it's like keeping people's stats on the screen and updating them week by week just was just not something we were able to get together in time. So it's like having the rules out there, so y'all could understand what we're doing a little bit more. I think I would like. I would have to look into that and see, legalities and stuff, and how maybe Steve Kenshin would feel about it and things like that. But I will look into that, and if it is possible, I will release some version of what our hack is. And okay, so on that, thank you. Obsequious Diphthong, Captain America 777, and Fireboss for those questions. And now we got a little bit of a surprise. So something I've wanted to do for a while and finally got together in this little break. Over the course of the first 2 seasons, some of y'all have created some of the most amazing fan art that has just been, I cannot overstate how much of an inspiration it is to us, and how much it changes the way we picture the characters in the show, and makes it feel real in a way, that, I mean, imagination is great, but it's like to actually see your characters and the actions just like down there on paper. It just like, it seriously, it affects the feels, and we are super grateful. So we put our heads together, and we made a fan art reel so that y'all can see some of our favorites, that have come in. And we're going to play this now as like one big reel tonight. And then we're going to rerun little parts of it in sections over the course of the season. So, so that everyone gets a chance to see it. So, yeah, Jake, whenever you're ready, let's see the fan art, man. Oh my God. Just every time I see that, it's just super overpowering. We thank you, I mean, again, so much for all the incredible art and, and if more rolls in over the course of the next season, it's like, if anybody wants to do any more, it's like we'll update that reel and add more to it as more stuff comes in, because like I said, it means so much to us, honestly. So thank you all so much. So we got a whole bunch of questions left, and I've heard that some more have come in chat. I don't know how much we'll be able to get to, but we're going to keep going. So why don't we say we're going to take a 10-minute break now, and then we're going to come back, and after the 10-minute break, we're just going to roll into a whole bunch more stuff. So don't go nowhere. We'll be back. Thank you so much. Hello. Welcome back. So yeah, oh my God. So the first half, that was fantastic. We got through a lot of stuff. Let's see how much we can get through here in the second half-ish. I'm going to start this off with a question for B. Zelda from Adventure Awaits, who wants to know, can we get a detailed description of what Ulez looks like underneath the helmet for art reasons?
Yes, but you have to wait for me to truly consider it to be able to write it up in a tweet. That's
Okay.
honest. That's my answer, 100%. Because like I've considered it, I really, really have. But the more like I've vocalized a couple of details about them, and I don't know if it jives the way I really want it to. So like I need to sit down with like an adult, like Caitlin. Oh, am I freezing?
I was gonna say, if you want to hit me up, we can do some art.
Yes, and just like figure out like how do I properly put what is in my brain into words. So
alien embodiment is hard,
isn't it?
Because like
you want to use human references, but that's not necessarily what I'm interpreting.
And aliens are weird. They're really weird, and like, yeah, obviously Catrax does not have a humanoid embodiment based on like how they talk about these weird flesh sacks. But like positively developing something, like, I feel you, buddy.
It is rough.
It is rough.
We'll get there, though. I believe in us.
We are weird. We can come up with visual expressions thereof.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I will stick on them about that. So that tweet will come eventually. So now, for the whole crew, Night Dragon asks, who is your character's favorite comic book superhero? I know with Cadrax and Ulez, they most likely haven't read comics, so who would be their favorite hero?
C-3PO.
Okay.
Yeah, I've be honest, definitely put on OG Star Wars. And like, don't get me wrong, R2-D2 is full of sass, and like that is just a delight. But there's something so formulaic and so just like wholesome about C-3PO that 100% Ulas is like, oh, I would definitely interact with somebody like that. They seem really, really nice, and that's just that's their connection right there.
Wow, now that you mention it, yeah, I can definitely. There's definitely some C-3PO in Ulez. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. Never thought about it. See, I'm learning so much here.
Catrax, I think it's going to be Thor, right? Because Thor embodies like who Cadrax wishes they were. Like
I think Cadrax is very Thorish,
right?
And every so often gives yeah, and sometimes little himbo vibes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm glad that's getting across as well. They certainly endeavor to drink their respect women juice, as is required of all himbos. But they would take it as a great compliment to be compared to Thor. Aspirational.
Caitlin.
So I'm not going to be able to make a poll here, but I do think that Benny did go through a superhero comic phase very, very briefly as a child. Very briefly, because then I think something bad happened and then she wanted to forget about superpowers. Not to make it sad, but like I think she lit something on fire, or I don't know, just I think she was enamored with the idea for a while. Like I can live vicariously through what I cannot actually do and control by myself, but this will make me feel better about it. And then I think like something bad happened and then she gave up on the whole superhero thing.
So like our superpowered comic folks, Omar and Rick, are there any heroes that that have a hard time dealing with their own powers? Like, would you find anybody relatable to like Benny's journey?
Like the one that strikes me off the bat is
Bruce
like
Banner.
Hulk. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Would have related to the Hulk, yeah.
Dang.
And like Phoenix a little bit, some Phoenix stuff. I know it gets very convoluted and big, but
Right, that's very like high level version.
What about, like,
yeah, I think
Rogue?
it's too big. Yeah. Oh, Rogue.
Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah.
that would have been good.
been too hard for her. I think Rogue specifically would have been too much. For her. I will say that Bruce Banner and Hulk. Oh, I'm gonna keep saying sad things. That's how she feels. Like as a kid, that's how she felt. Like she was
Benny.
a monster. Like that's a good answer. Actually, that's really good. I can't say favorite, but I can say that would have been like something.
I want to make her read Runaways though.
Yeah.
Like I want her to see kids who are like struggling with it, but also getting through it.
Yeah.
Like it's you're gonna be okay, kiddo.
I know, right? Not to be like there's a lot of like gay, like queer allegories and superheroes, and a lot of that influenced Benny, but like that is all true. And like just the like feeling like you don't know yourself and you have the two versions of yourself, and I can talk about that for a while, but yeah, something to the effect of Benny had a small superhero comic book phase and then gave up on it because I think it hit too close to home because she didn't have anything in real life to look up to.
Man, I'm writing Benny fan fiction in my head now. It's like you went to the comic book store, you started reading some issue of Hulk off the stand. It got to you psychologically. You lit it in the fire. It set the comic book store on fire, and you went and you ran for it. And,
that kind of thing. Yeah, it's rough.
I will just write it in my journal. Omar?
Okay, I think I've got two answers here. The fun one is Jamie Madrox's Multiple Man from aforementioned X Factor. A thing about, especially in some the more recent runs. No, I'm just old. This is like 10 years ago. But there was a big take on I'm sorry, I'm going through a moment here, just realizing this. There was a run though where you find out that the reason that Multiple Man does multiple, like makes multiple versions of himself and stuff, it's not because he's a military tactician or whatever. It's because he wants to just live different lives. And I loved that. It was such a cool little story where like he would just send off someone to go live and have a family and just find out what it's like to have kids. And later he's like, oh, I shouldn't have done this because I got to pull this guy back now. This is real bad. And so like I think that the obvious the on the surface, like this is the Comic-Con Hall H panel answer would be Jamie Madrox. But I think if we get to be ambiguous with this and kind of be like what exists, what doesn't. I'm putting this on the table, man. I'm gonna go and put my cards on the table. My favorite Marvel film in the MCU is Captain Marvel. There is a scene in that I think is the greatest scene in any MCU film for myself. I'm not speaking in generalities. I'm using I terms. It is when they're outside a barn and this alien turns to Carol and goes like, yeah, I like attacked you and I tried to use you. That's before I knew who you were. And she spins around and goes, you don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. And it's my favorite scene. It's my favorite line from any Marvel movie. And I think that Vion's like, yeah, I want to go hang out with the swashbuckling like noir detective who can live all these lives. And I think it would be Carol Danvers who is living the one life. And I think that's who Vion should spend time with. So that's my answer. It's going to be Captain Marvel from the movies.
Good answer, man. Yeah, I love that movie. Oh my God. It's like, yeah, when that we have our own kind of Captain Marvel in our game here is like one of my favorite things. Don't you hide. It's good answers all around. So Sam, why don't you read the question from Alan McKenzie?
Yes, I know that without speculating too far, and that season 3 will contain such things, Alan McKenzie asks, are there strands of superpowers in this world, like mutants, metagenes, and so on?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I got to tell you, it's like, power play is weird in the sense where it's like I have ideas about what the future is, and there's some things I want to know that happen, but I leave a lot of it very unexplored to kind of make up as we go. Like, there were no such things as ever singers until Sam chose a power. It's like, and there's a lot of examples of just like, I kind of like you know, I want to have all the fun of planning everything to myself, like right in the beginning, and then just have to follow some track for it. So it's like I try and leave the maximum unexplored so that we can sort of all make it up together as we go. So like right now, it's like I can honestly say I don't really know. I mean, obviously, I think we already put on the record that there have been more than one spirit of justice. So like there's a little bit of a legacy thing going on there. I think Destiny Ben Dixon mentioned that she got the gift from her mother and grandmother. So we see that there's a little bit of genetic legacy there. Um, you know, as far as that goes, it's like it's weird. I kind of love old Golden Age and early Silver Age comics where it's just a world where there are aliens, and then this guy gets powers because he got struck by lightning, and that guy gets powers because he gets bit by a radioactive spider. And then, I know later in comic book development, they started trying to want everything to make sense a little bit more. So they started coming up with explanations that try to get it all to hang together, like metagenes and things like that. And it's like, I'm not saying no good ever comes from that stuff. There's certainly fun storylines, but it's like, I kind of, not necessarily. The answer could certainly just be, nah, it just might be a universe where there are just aliens and different people with powers and stuff like that. And then I don't know, we could decide if we get to some late season, season 5, season 6, that like, yes, suddenly there's one explanation for everything. I mean, honestly, I don't know. So the answer is, I don't know. I hope that was enlightening.
We do have lesbian magic. That is canon.
We do have, canonical lesbian magic, which is always out there in our universe, just flavoring everything a tiny bit. And thank you, Alan. So Scott wants to know, Sam, we know there are Knights of the Blue and Knights of the Red. Are there Knights of other colors or Star Choir members who aren't Knights? And how do they differ? And is the choir the people as a whole or an organization within those people?
Oh, a whole lot of answers to that are yes. The first question is, I did not make up the Knights of the Red. I did not make up the entire structure of the Knights. The Knights of the Blue are a squad, in effect, within the Knights of Harmony, which is the order overall. But the Knights, remember how I said that Sunny swerved me? Likewise, Knights of the Red, the notion of knights being different colors, I really just, there are all sorts of order names for various things, and I just felt Knights of the Blue and I went with it. I imagined it as a photoacoustic effect of the blue that was somehow signature and so on. But the fact that there is a order does by extension imply that there are people who are not of the Knights. Hence, there is a name. They are a subset within the choir. And yes, they are different in a lot of ways. I think we have said in canon that the Knights of Harmony came to the defense of Cadrax's home moon against the Alpha Combine way back when they were with Curtis Haber. So they do some of that, and people who are not Knights do not. And I'm really hoping we learn more about the Star Choir as a people, but also the institution. Because to answer that piece of the question, the answer is yes. The choir is, I wanted to have something for setting, for world building reasons that wasn't equated to the place necessarily that they were from, particularly because they're on different planets and in different systems, and they're the Star Choir of Exodus, but they're not all going to be there. So what, as a species, do they call each other? And how can I make that maybe not how we usually do it, in some kind of way? So as always, there are sociolinguistic analogies and constructions, and whatever we understand in human words as the Star Choir is just the best that we're doing with English here, and is gonna be different. The way we talk is gonna be different. It's why universal translators make no sense. But yeah, I think based on some origins that we're maybe we learn more about the Star Choir, and if I think we're probably gonna have to at some point, and we'll see more then.
Yeah, I'm gonna tack on to that. It was like, yeah, like the Knights of the Red is one of those, examples of what I was talking about of like, just improvising new parts of the universe as the players sort of lead me. When I first kind of, gave a glimpse of Sonny in one of the lore drops, I had a very different vision of who he was, and then sort of as some events unfolded, it sort of changed, what I wanted to do with that character, it just sort of struck me eventually that, like, with the Knights of the Blue being called the Blue, and it sort of just, that Star Wars blue, good guys have blue lightsabers and bad guys have red lightsabers. I was just sort of like, since Sonny's supposed to be from the parts of the Star Choir that are a little more unseemly and destructive, that they would be, the Knights of Danger and Blood and all those.
I never thought of it as a Green Lantern, like Red Lantern kind of thing until you introduced Sonny.
Oh yeah. And it's like, yeah, definitely, yes, it definitely gets a little bit of that Lantern Corps flavor, sure. And Sam's reactions to Sonny very much shaped who he turned out to be. Which is,
I got so irrationally pissed at him, and we just played through it.
Irrationally.
I was protective of Abigail or something.
Yeah,
like there was something about the elements of it in the scene, but also like members of the choir are dangerous, and knights in particular are dangerous. I guess just without cloaking too hard, like knights are warriors who weaponize their voice. People who aren't knights don't necessarily do that. So he's dangerous. He scared me, and I reacted accordingly, and whoops.
Yeah, no, it was great. And honestly, it's like, again, like my favorite thing in the game is when the players spin a thing that I thought was going to happen into something totally new and different. And then that week I have to go back to the drawing board, and, it's like this sort of forced creativity where you're just kind of like, oh, okay, so this is going to be a totally different thing. Oh, all right. And yeah, that was a particular example. So yeah, thank you, Scott. Okay, for everybody, Michael Harris wants to know, and I'm going to ask you all to do this without specific spoilers, so kind of just a yes or a no kind of deal. Has anyone thought of a code name for their characters, or a team name for the team, or do you have a vision for like a costume, like a superhero costume for your character? Let's start with Omar.
Yes. You said just yes or no, right?
Yeah.
You want a little bit more? You want like a teaser?
Little detail as possible. Like, okay, let's, have you thought of a code name? Yes or no?
Yes.
Have you thought of a costume? Yes or no?
Absolutely. I've done nothing but think about a costume.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I don't want to unveil, but that, I think that's plenty. Caitlin.
Yeses and nos across the board. There are some things that I've been like, okay, yes, I will have thoughts about this, and some, despite being a visual artist, costume design is rough for me to come up with. If someone gives me something, I can draw it, whatever. But coming up with my own, fun fact, I designed Benny as I was drawing her when I was doing I did everyone's character art, and then I did Benny, and I made her up as I drew her. Coming up with my own character design is hard, so that one might take me a little while, but yeses and nos to all of the above. I've had some thoughts.
Yeses and nos. Okay, well, that is both helpful and not helpful. Thank you, Caitlin.
I think, please.
B.
No, and however, if anybody in chat has seen the anime Durara, I think that's a direction I'm considering. I don't know if that means anything to anybody. It's one of those weird animes, but it's fine. So who knows? Who knows?
Gee, B, do you watch anime?
What? Me? No.
Huh. Sim Liv.
My code name is Dr. Caden Dialto.
Wow. That's why you want to play with Sam right there.
Right? So good.
Costume? Yes, no?
Well, it's a white coat.
Very fancy
Yes.
looking white coat.
I guess we are now in game. We are now in game with Cadrax. Okay, and as for like a team name, I know you started like calling yourselves like Defenders of the Earth or Guardians of the Earth or whatever it was. A little bit. I don't know. I like the vibe of that kind of. Got a cool.
It's a mission statement, if not necessarily a formal name. We have sworn upon our pinkies.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's how we maintain our promises.
And a quality that I think you can draw on.
Could I throw out Dog Defenders?
Ooh.
Just to have on the. Can we just put that up on the board?
Yeah,
that's on the board. And I love it.
Honestly, more noble than probably defending the Earth as a whole.
My solo episode guests did a lot of the legwork for me, so they brainstormed a lot of names for.
Strawberry Phoenix, absolutely
cute.
Incredible.
He doesn't burn red anymore, but it was very good. That was my favorite one.
That was not bad. We should talk to whoever came up with that about royalties. So I think that's everybody. So I'm going to hit another question from Scott, who sent in a whole bunch of great questions. B, we've seen there are many Ulez galleys, whatever.
Whatever you want.
Do they all specialize in plants, or is that a subset? And what other kinds of keepers are there? And have the keepers always been technological, or do they have biological precursors? And you don't have to answer if you think this stuff is, unexplored or you haven't figured it out or spoilerific.
I feel like a little bit, if I were to answer too deep into the past, that'd be a little spoilerific. However, there are schools for everything for the Ulez Galley. This is a people that was made to study, to observe, to watch, and to absorb. We are the keepers of knowledge, and there is so much knowledge to learn. Like when you go to university and there's like, if you want to major in something, but you don't know what you want to do with your life. So there's like a general major you can take, and it's just like anything. There's even that for the Ulez Galley. It's like you don't know what you want to study, you don't really know what's out there. You can just kind of absorb some general knowledge, get out into the universe, fly on your little fridge spaceship, find out what you want to learn, then come back home, upgrade yourself to properly study that, and then that is your new life. And your duty as an Ulez is to take that knowledge, bring it back, and share it with your people. So there are Ulez for everything.
I want the whole series of the Undeclared Ulez. I would read the whole run in one day.
God,
they're the best ones.
We get like a whole bunch of guest stars down here and just do like a whole game of Ulez galleys. That
That needs to be a mini game, y'all. I might look into that.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
So, okay, for everybody, Anon again asks, if you could play with this cast in a different system or setting, which would it be and why? Let's start with Sam, the I have a mischievous look on my face, Delev.
Oh, I mean, it was off the top of my head, Benny in particular has proven, but I think all of these players would be amazing in a Tales from the Loop kind of game. Like, that's just like, if there was an expression on my face, it was like, oh, I have to think beyond the obvious answer, because any game in that genre, so Kids on Bikes, Kids on Brooms, I think would be fun just to really move
Kids
away.
in Space.
kids in space, but like moving away from all of our usual genres, going invisible as needed, as B has done, and then reappearing.
They're back.
Because when you cast another spell or you make an attack, the invisibility drops. But yeah, I think it's the easy answer. So like I'm saying it first because you called on me first and I didn't have more time to think. But like everyone in this cast would be so excellent as a kiddo because everyone has this inbuilt sense of like whimsy and fun. And also I'm here at the table.
Well, I didn't mean to not give you time to think. So by the time we get around to the order, you have a different answer. We can hit you up again. So
That's great.
Caitlin Bruder.
Okay, I'm not joking when I said that was going to be my first thought too, just because I am a sucker for kids and bikes and I feel like everyone would be really good at it. My second answer would be Cypher System because I love the Cypher System and I feel like everyone here is so creative with like their power building and like how you construct characters in Cypher is so like personalized and like you can take, I don't know, just if there's just I feel like I would just love to see the characters that everyone here would make in a Cypher for a Cypher game and like how you end up using your abilities. That's mostly where that comes from, just out of like I'd be at the table, but I want to be an audience member at whatever types of characters you'd come up with in a Cypher game.
Omar.
My answer is mall kids. It's not working. Here we go. There it is. Yeah, I would want to do mall kids. I feel like we would be really great together. And this is a group that just needs to go shopping together anyway. So, well, I mean, like, yeah, shopping, but you're working. There's like a morning and there's like an afternoon. There's a whole like structure to it. We would destroy them all. I just know this.
I would be honored to destroy them all with you guys.
B.
Okay, I thought this answer was going to be the first one. Y'all, what kind of superhero games you're playing? Why has nobody answered Masks? A game?
Yeah, we're already playing Masks. I earlier went through the playbooks to figure out who everyone was. Vion, right. Deacon, Ules, Outsider, Benny, Nova, Cadrax, Janice. Done.
Mm-hmm. Right? We all act with our feelings. We all unleash our powers. Honestly, we would fit so well into a Masks campaign, but it would be different, but just like so much more like it wouldn't be more emotionally tense, but it would. Just like, and I need that. I need like a one shot of us in Masks.
Rick, when he was thinking of systems and he was looking at mutants and masterminds, we ultimately went with icons, which like I am super happy to get a chance to be introduced to this system. Right. I'm so proud of any system that has like probability control built into the rules. Like, honey, you took the game mechanic breaking one and you made it work. But yes, no, Masks, absolutely.
Masks, so
strong.
good.
And
so
a Powered by the Apocalypse game I think would work really beautifully for this.
2d6, easy peasy lemon squeezy. But also
our current game into a new system? Is that what the question was?
Right, that's the thing. It also included different setting, which is why I figured we couldn't do Masks.
Oh,
yep.
Something to think about.
But if we're coming back around, I'm going to put in this really weird word, and I know I'm always this guy at all circumstances, but I would love to see what this group did with Invisible Sun, which is all about a city and how the particulars of that city and the people navigating that city and unraveling its mysteries work. It only works because you care about the actions and consequences of how you interact with the setting. It really rewards heartfelt characters. It's by the same publisher as the Cypher system. And it's a completely different genre and completely different approach to being. Ultimately, yes, also incredibly high-powered, but in different ways that it's nothing like what we're playing now, but I think this group would all thrive beautifully and like elevate the system because you bring so much heart to the work. And I think Invisible Sun, it would be so easy to get wrapped up in the magic of it, and the groundedness that all of you bring as people, I think would be the best version of Invisible Sun. Thank you for attending my Theodore discussion.
Yes!
This isn't an RPG, but I think we'd all be really good Animorphs. Just
oh my god, I would love to be an Animorph.
Your
face. Every so often you get a B reaction like that. B's like the nicest, but every so often you get a B. You get just like, it's not like judgment is a very loaded word. It's not a negative, but you just get an assessment from B. B just goes, they go like, vroom.
It's got feelings about it, you know. Animorphs is great, but it's also its own thing, you know. I mean, many people. Like, who are you folks that were into Animorphs? Where were you when I was a kid? You know,
at the Scholastic Book Fair, no doubt. Like, without a doubt, that's where we were.
My jam.
Man, I want to throw a couple of answers of my own onto the end of this, which is just, first, I guess maybe the boring answer, which is that, like, I'm not really, I'm not really a fantasy guy exactly, It's like, I get into some of that stuff, but like, I've always had in the back of my head wanting to do like sort of my version of a 5e campaign, which is like, something that would make it interesting to me. It's kind of because of its ubiquitousness that like, I sort of like, I would love to see these 4 people make it their own, and I don't know, just a thing I've always wanted to do some days. Maybe take the 4 of these people, have them make some 5e characters and do like a mini campaign or something like that.
4 bards. Great.
4 bards.
Right?
Yes.
What would we even? Okay, no. Let me be a warforged pallid cleric. I don't know.
Yeah. Sam,
I thought I had it, and then I didn't.
Oh goodness! What do you do in like the? Is there like a food people cook just to be like, here is how good a cook I am, and everyone cooks the exact same food, so they all get evaluated on the basis of that food? Because that's what it feels like, in the role play space playing it. I would just not be a rogue. I would not let myself be a rogue. I might indulge myself with wizard because it's such a fun spell list, and I almost never play.
Caitlin?
I mean, I love a cleric. I always play clerics. I love clerics. Is this just like what we as people would play, or because it sounded like B was making Ulas?
I was trying to figure out what Ulas would be, and I don't know how they fit. Me as B, I just play barbarians. Let me punch things.
Oh, that's like Operation Nazi Puncher. Well, Omar, what would you want to play as?
I have a thing with 5e specifically where I think that every character is going from one character build to another character build, and like it's between the player and the GM to see if they get close to that or what happens. It's not like a level like 1 to 20. It's like you're going from one thing to another. So I would like, with this group, I think after playing them like the most pretentious no, it's not. I'm just playing myself. But playing like a coffee snob record collector, I want to play a barbarian who wants to be a druid. That would be... I think I would like to play that character a lot.
Also, there are such beautiful builds there. Like, if we're just looking from that perspective, you can have a very good time with like a moon barb.
I also want to be able to like punch something because I'm rarely able to do that in our game. So
I would love to see you play a heavy.
Thank you.
And of course, the other game that I would love to take these 4 through is Lasers and Feelings. Just sometime. Yes. I mean, Sam, have you ever played Lasers and Feelings? Because
I played with Amy Dallin ran me through one. Once.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I think you'd really be into it. And Omar. I picture you in some sort of Fast and the Furious based variant or something, but
I can Tokyo Drift between stories. It's fine. We can do whatever we wish.
For all
a fast 5 episodes.
Great, great answers all around.
Still got it, baby.
Let's the next Caitlin, you're up for the next question towards me.
Oh yes, I have very limited technology set up in front of me, so I'm speaking.
You want me to just go ahead?
I can do it. Hey Rick. Yeah. 6 seasons in a movie?
6 seasons in a movie. Okay, movies can be incredibly expensive, but I mean, I don't want to like make any promises or tie ourselves down to anything, but like I've set up a lot of stuff that needs to be paid off. And we're probably going to need somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 seasons to do that. So I'm thinking, just Power Play is probably just about that long. And and I don't want to I don't want it to go on forever because like it is it is something that kind of has a story to it and an ending and a point, and I kind of I'm hoping to see if we can land this puppy on the runway and then stop before we go past the end of the runway to mix.
How are you landing a puppy?
Oh, it's a flying puppy that you can
With
ride
the
on its back. It's like Appa, yeah, like it's kind of
That's a good answer.
yeah.
Give it a good yip yip.
Oh yeah, yep. Let's all get together and watch Avatar after we watch Buffy.
Can I run Avatar the RPG for y'all sometime? Okay, hold on, Jake. Let me run Avatar the RPG for these folks. It just came out and I just finished training for it. Y'all, it is such a good game. Such a heckin' good game. So
I played Avatar for on Lasers and Feelings hack, but I haven't played a robust because we did a Tempting Fate of it. And by the way, it went beautifully. Yes. So I would love to see it with an actual robust system. I think it would game really nicely. Yeah.
Right.
That was totally one of my favorite Tempting Fates where we had Markia in that and we had Rick Bear in that and it was like and I think Ravity was in that and she was a regular at that point I think actually maybe that was just like when she started so it was like
she was Fire Nation.
She was just Trash Fire Nation, yeah. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, so honestly, Jake, we got to talk. I will vouch for B. They are a wonderful person and totally deserve a campaign of their own. Hint, hint, not judge. Done. So, done. Yes.
Voice of Dog. We have it.
Yes.
Watch for that. Coming sometime before the world ends, probably. So, moving along. Okay, we're actually coming towards the end of our pre-existing questions. We've done really fantastic here. We got a couple of more from Scott, which I put towards the end because I didn't want to pile up too many from the same people. But Scott asks, for me, how deep does the alternate world history go? New York City is Port Ruby. Is every state different also? Are there other states, cities, countries, that kind of stuff? Or is it all left up in the air? And the answer is it's all kind of left up in the air. Depending on how important the location is whether or not it's real or not. So it's like, Benny chose Michigan as their home state, but when it came time to actually visit it, we made up a fake town, so it could be our own. And like an Operation Nazi Puncher, like Villemel, France, we made up for our own purposes. And Estrovia, of course, is a fictional location that's of some undetermined importance in the game. It's just kind of like as at Grave Glen where Vion had his accident and stuff like that. So it's like kind of as we sort of come up with the need for new locations, or just sort of try and find stuff that fits the personality of the game and lets it again kind of become our own thing.
Remember when you accidentally instantiated New Jersey though? That was my favorite.
Yes, I accidentally put New Jersey in, which I really didn't want to do, but it's on the record now. So yes, New Jersey exists in our universe. No offense to the people of New Jersey, but I'm from New York, and there's a thing there, and I don't know. So that is answered, and the last question that we have on our pre-existing list before we get to in case there were any questions from chat.
The doc is in the Discord.
Oh, there is that. Okay, so I will look at that in a second. Phoenix wants to know, why do you have to give us so many feels? Sam?
Why are you looking at me?
Honestly, thank you.
I have a lot of feelings about the characters we've made, and they overflow, and so we give them to you.
Yeah.
That was a very good answer, Caitlin.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I assumed that was just going to be a rhetorical question, but there's Caitlin once again giving like meaningful answers. Who invited you in your meaningful answers, Caitlin?
I can.
No. You just
I'm absolutely like in the middle of my week, just sitting there thinking like, I know Benny is fictional, but I hope wherever she is, she's having a nice day. I want that for her.
She's trying her best every day.
Okay, so I'm gonna go over this. Okay, okay. For Omar, librarian Liz wants to know: are powers a thing in the world of Vion's books?
Interesting. What a good question. I don't. I powers in terms of like something that you could just like have. Interesting. I think within the DNA of the universe that Vion exists in, technically there is a meta level of dice rolling. So there is sort of like a failure success component in that way. And so I think as a fictional writer, he would have created his own meta structure that I think is based off of emotions. I think that like there are and people can. Yeah, I think. Oh, also, by the way, in Vion's book, yes, there is going to be superpower. I just realized, like, people are like predicting the future and stuff. There's like magic is real in that book, but yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, Liz, yes, but I think it is. I think it's less dependent on like a roll of the dice because that is how the universe is decided, and I think it is more of like tied to like some emotional or thematic like spectrum. And that's how like those function. So I don't know if like superpowers work because it's like Superman is this strong, but in this issue he was able to punch the sun, and like I don't think there's anything in that. I think it's just like if someone's like very emotional, like that's how the powers are reflective of that. It's just like a window into what someone's going through.
Cool, kind of like a magic realism version of superhero, like superhero realism or something. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah,
You're
very
good at
Benny
this.
as well.
Yeah,
Like resonating with the human model of powers that we have in front of us that seem to work quite like that. In fact, I wonder what Vion might have been picking up on.
Okay. So Heart of Handprints asks, do we have a chance at seeing some new official art this season? That is something I myself would want to know. Our official artist is a very busy person. What do you think? A chance?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, there's kind of a thing that you and I are talking about, but I don't know if that counts.
We'll talk more. But we'll say like a chance in the sense that there's not no chance.
Yeah, no, I do. You know what? To tide you over, I did before Benny's one shot. I did draw a baby Benny. I drew like a 10-year-old Benny, and I forgot to post it on Twitter.
Please post Tenny now.
Yes,
Tenny.
Tenny.
Tiny Benny.
I will
Give
defend
Tenny
Tenny
now.
with my life.
It's on the device that I'm using to do this call, so I will have to do it after this call. But
No worries, we will wait
I
patiently.
have not met them, but I will kill for them.
Yes.
Cassidy Weaver asks, is Vion really dead, and does he know for sure? What do you think, Omar? Like, you may not even know the answers to these questions, but
I play to the top of my intelligence, and so I'll just answer what I would answer, but as Vion, I don't think he's really into labels. Next question, Your Honor.
all right. Let's see.
I am excited to have more conversations about the nature of that sort of thing, given that we have multiple post-dead characters now.
Yeah, I think finding out there was a lot that happened at the end of last season, but I have a feeling Vion at some point is going to be like, oh, immortality, so that's an option. All right, let's sit down and quickly chat about this Catrax because that's a very interesting thing that's going on there.
I'm very excited. It was not a point of resonance of the characters at the beginning of the campaign for obvious reasons. And I think of the like Cadrax and Benny have like similar natures of power and approaches to problem solving. Cadrax and Ulez like are both from the other coast, so to speak. But it's nice to have something like Cadrax and Vion were kind of at the kitty corner of character relationships in a lot of ways. and this brings them closer together through death. They have something in common now.
As it should be. Also, I do feel like there's a lot of interesting stuff between Vion and Ulez, because there is also a sense of immortality through Ulez's build and design in life. So,
oh god, exploring that is going to be deep in the wires.
That is like a thing now in this group, like as an overall.
Yeah, Benny, catch up.
I'm
kidding, I
just
love you.
I'm just a guy. I don't know what you like. That is one of my favorite things about Benny, is being the like, why is no one else freaking out right now? This is
You're the straight man? Are you okay?
Oh, right. Are you okay if you're straight?
I feel like a lot of RPGs are like, oh, we're murder hobos. We go from town to town and we just go to a tavern and we wreck shop, nothing has stakes. Whereas this is like, all right, the three of us should sit down and talk about like what like not just death, but like what is life. And then there's Benny at the door on fire, just like, okay, but they are coming. Like, the villains are coming though. Like, you do understand this, right? Like,
I love being the passport character. That was never my intention, but Rick kind of gave me that, and I cherish it with my entire heart.
See, you made the closest thing to a normal person, just kind of worked out that way. Yeah, normal person. So yeah, okay. John Numa asks, what is Aunt May making for dinner? In a throwback to the old Tempting Fate days. Let's see. That's a question for me. So I will say Aunt May is making pad thai.
It's
That's
not
so
the first time she
good.
has.
Are we invited to the
Oh yeah, everybody's invited.
For those who don't know, in Lasers and Feelings, when you roll your number, you get to ask the GM a question. And we played a whole lot of episodes of Tempting Fate, and honestly, I know a lot of us players like figuring things out ourselves, and asking the GM a question can sometimes even feel like cheating. Not to mention, sometimes you roll your number too many times and you run out of questions. And at one point, Rick Budd, during our Into the Spider-Verse series of Tempting Fate, said you could ask any question, like, what's Aunt May making for dinner? Thereby setting himself up for his inevitable downfall, as the moment one of us got our number on the die, thereafter it became tradition. It does not matter what IP.
Good.
We need to know what's Aunt May having for dinner. Pad thai.
Yes, the moral of the story is I should never speak. So moving right along, Night Dragon asks to everybody, what superpower would you like to have for yourself in real life? Why don't we start not with B, with Omar?
let's not. I mean, okay. With this game, I like magic. Like I really do. I've got a green screen up, but if I collapsed it, you would see like it is like a pseudo sorcerer's like workshop behind me. I did pick this up recently, but also in honor of Destiny, I did get a little crystal ball here. It's amethyst, not necessarily crystal. But let's scratch that out, because I feel like that's like a big, that like, especially in our game, it's like that's all the powers in one, like, book. So talk to animals. Talk to animals. Why not? Why not talk to animals? I'd love to talk to animals. Like, I can fly. Like I
Doolittle.
Yeah. Yeah, I would want to talk to animals, I think.
You're the best. Oh my gosh.
And of course, you live in like a sorcerer's workshop. That figures. Caitlin.
I feel like this is such a boring answer, but like I love telekinesis. Like I think that's so cool. I think it's like so versatile. It was one thought I had for before Benny was born. As a I didn't think of the person. I thought of the power first. So that was one idea I had, and then it was the metal bending sort of, which I ended up getting to do for Nazi Puncher. But I wanted to step away from myself because I would have picked. I think telekinesis is cool.
Sam.
Oh, I think it's a very good thing that I don't get to have them.
from the person who created Simon.
Right, the person who created Simon, the most wholesome superhero I ever created, Lacey, was a privacy concern. I was not sold on technopathic powers until I played in a cyberpunk world. Technopath and cyberpunk OP, but also OP now. I didn't have respect for them, and I do now. That's the closest to like a wholesome power that I even get. But like, I would be a nosy bastard who would want telepathy or something. Like the Simon power is terrifying but effective. Don't let me have them. Don't let me have them. I love them too much.
Sam metagames life. Like before we start streaming, Sam comes in and goes like, I was wondering how best to do like anything, like grocery shopping, and I figured it out. And here's the thing, folks, it's the right answer every single time. Sam's like, I figured something out. Like it's a TED talk where you're just like, you walk out and you're just like, well, shoot, humanity just progressed that much farther into our future
every time, and it's consistently wonderful.
It'll never be useful. That's the thing.
But it's like whatever my brain wonderful.
Counterpoint, while you did create the utterly terrifying Simon Fripjik, you also killed Hitler. So,
yes.
Would I be effective with the terrifying superpower? I like to think that yes, but I also acknowledge the inherently corrupting potential of so many of these and my own very human frailties, and it's safer not to. Or rather, it's safer that I don't have to make the choice because I would say yes.
This sounds like something someone who does have superpowers would say just to throw us off their trail. I would like to just point out.
He's actually right. Yeah.
Get real sus.
Yeah.
Well, but I can't talk to animals, so useless.
Okay, so moving along. Exo Girl Wonder says, how were the guest players chosen for the Origins one-shots? Did each player say, I want this person to play in my character's origin story, or did Rick just reach out to his vast network? I get that. So it's actually kind of a mix. Like Sam specifically requested Eddie and kind of set the tone for the sort of underground Fight Club vibe of the whole thing, so that we could see a little that side of Cadrax and get the connections and their stick fighting and all that stuff. And then for Caitlin and B, I just kind of said to myself, who would be cool to see these people mix it up with, and honestly, it's like. I love who I chose for those games. There were probably a lot of people who could have played in either of those games, that would have been great to mix up with Caitlin and B. I would have loved to see them bounce off of.
Rick, okay, so I knew who Marquia was. I've worked with Marquia. She is just a delight. But Max, I didn't know who he was. And y'all tried to preface with some terrifying stories about this individual that I don't know if you were trying to sell him or make me afraid.
I mean, I feel like both together is the way to, like, the notion of preparing one for Max Isaacson is frankly a fool's errand.
And honestly, it didn't even do it justice.
Relatively well behaved.
He was a peach, an absolute, just like geriatric peach, and I loved him.
Geriatric peach, Max Isaacson.
Yeah. I love Max, and it's like, I've seen him sort of grow up as a player, through Vast, where, you saw him, sort of first learning to perform on camera at the beginning, and then by the end, like sort of effortlessly flipping back and forth between two completely different characters in the same scene and stuff, like, a real master. But it was like part of the casting for the Origins was like, I kind of wanted to bring back some, my Tempting Fate people. So I wanted to make sure that like Rave was in the game and Marquia was in the game and Max was in the game. And it just kind of worked out well, I think, where everybody wound up. It's like Rave playing little kid and Max getting to play an old man. And we gave Marquia the chance to play a tank, which she has never done before and kind of did brilliantly.
Destroyed her enemies, demolished them.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I love Rose of Blast.
Yeah, she was great. She was great, and Laser, is always great and everything. Um, uh, oh, and Drac. It was like I wanted for Caitlyn's game to have one of her buddies from Infinite Horizons, just sort of, because it's supposed to be like these were supposed to be like kids who were best friends. So somebody who had like a pre-existing feeling of camaraderie with Caitlyn, I thought, would be cool. So it just, it just worked out really well. And honestly, it's like I really want to bring every single one of those people back at some point. All those characters were so great, and that's what happens when you invite great people on. They do great stuff, and then you wind up having to bring them back because you're just like, oh my god, how could I not bring back Ricka Fisher? How do I not want to see Will Walton again? It was like it was also great.
Wait, how did Dale? Did we hear how Dale got on there? Did you?
We don't have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Did you also believe
we can just move on.
Yeah, Dale, of course, I've known Dale, for a while now. She was in Future Girl back in the day, playing, one of my favorite characters who starts the brawl in the Big Thursblot episode. And I was just sort of like, yes, Dale just killed it in Future Girl. I think I got to punch Max No Sleeves in the face or something like that. And I was just sort of like, who would make a great scene partner for Omar? And then, none of those people wanted to do it, so I got Dale. And no. Sorry. No, I just Omar makes it irresistible to just try. No. And
it's
it was
better.
Just like,
it's better than I know, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just I know that like Dale and Omar just have this great kind of like back and forth between them, and I was just like, we have to get this into a power play game at some point. So Dale absolutely killed it, and honestly, it's like, yeah, I got plans for Destiny. I want Destiny back so bad.
We all have plans for Destiny, Rick.
We all have plans for Destiny. Yeah, I mean,
she might have other plans for us.
Okay, so
I would just like to say, whoever sent Dale the clip earlier, you have like, we have a lot of fun on here, but you have made my life a lot harder. I did get the DM from Dale. I am the nightmare scenario. Direct quote. So great. I'm gonna have to deal with this later. So thank you very much.
Fabulous. Oh, that would be like a testimonial on my personal webpage if someone said that about me. So you have given beautiful, beautiful ammunition to your friend.
Yeah, once again, love Dale so much and hope that we can get Destiny back. And definitely go check out Dale's series of mythology videos on YouTube and stuff. It's like listening to Dale talk about mythology is honestly like one of the most interesting things. I mean, it's like truly fascinating stuff. Okay. Find another good. Okay, Geek Outs asks if you could have a body swap episode. We used to do body swaps all the time in Tempting Fate. Which character would you be excited to play as, and which character would you be intimidated or worried to play as? Wow, I love this question. Why don't we start with Caitlin Bruder?
That's so much. I think I would be excited. Okay, is this as like us as people or like as our characters? Who would they be most and like least likely? Because I think that might be different.
Let's say
whichever answer excites you.
Yeah, whichever answer excites you.
Okay. Me personally, as Caitlin, would love to have Beyond's powers. I think it would be very fun to play. Like the ghosting powers and like the phasing through things is so cool and so fascinating, and you always get to do such like fun problem solving with it. And I think that would be fun, a fun little puzzle set to play around in for a little while. I think that would be really cool. I think I would be intimidated by Cadrax's power set for the exact same reason, because you are so smart. And I feel like you bring so much like cool science to the table, and I feel like I would forget it all immediately. But also
the way you use your fire powers makes me press X to doubt.
It's fun. I feel like everyone's power sets would be so fun. I play a light character in my other stream game that I do, so I feel like I would just like slide right into. I'd be like, I can do this. Like I know how to do this. I got you.
B.
Heck. Okay, so I've got like a dual answer. Okay, on one hand, I would love to play Cadrax because I love the sense of like justice and the sense of fighting your enemies and always going left. But I also don't think that like I could do them justice because I would just get violent. Like, how do you rein it in?
I don't. I think half the times I've swerved on Rick were like, remember, he didn't expect me to actually hit the vampire, and I hit the vampire. He didn't expect me to put Mickey through a wall. I put Mickey through a wall. No, you got it. You nailed it. I think you would be
fair.
a wonderful Cadrax.
You wake up every day and you choose violence, and we are all here to support you.
Look, I want them to give me a reason not to, and then they don't. It's frankly befuddling to me. Help me help you not put you through a wall. You got this. It's easy.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I'd love to see like your literal like stone face, like sort of wheelhouse. I think that would be such a good look on you.
Ooh, it's hard. I don't know how, like, Caitlin and I don't know how to not be expressive. I often look towards Caitlin and we're just mirroring just like laughter, shock, and joy. You know, I don't know how to keep it in. And sometimes I look to Sam and it's either laughter or stony face. And I'm like, where did they put their emotions? How do you how?
Hard break. It's either one or it's the other. You can always tell whether or not I'm in character.
Yes.
Yeah, once again, the moral of power play is shower your violence with your enemies with violence. Just violence is a cure-all, and should definitely be your first move out of the bank.
No
I
repercussions.
will not experience negative repercussions for all of the above
repercussions.
things that I know perfectly well. Like everything I just named, he's gonna hurt me later. Like I know it's coming, and I accept.
We'll always.
I'm trying. I'm killing all your mentors as fast as I can.
I can't get them fast enough.
So with that, like, what happens when Cadrax finally becomes a mentor figure? Like, does that, like,
interesting for Benny's player to ask that question.
Waiting for that, actually. But
waiting for it, actually. I mean, waiting. Like, I'm here constantly. I don't sleep.
We've been talking about this possible dynamic since episode 1.
And it was another reason I was going back to a question we got ages ago, like why we picked the origin thing we picked. One of the reasons was because I really wanted more opportunity to articulate that point of parallel between Benny and Cadrax, because as soon as I found out that you wanted to sort of like play a Nova type who was like exploring, like trying to get powers under control, I was like, and I already had an O die at that point. I was like, okay, I'll start them a little farther along in that journey where like they've learned half the lesson. And then I was like, maybe we can. Maybe we can.
So much has happened. I think there was a while where after every episode we do like stars and wishes or whatever, and after every episode it was like every other was like, oh, I can't wait until like I've seen like training montage or something.
That was your wish for a long time.
Yeah.
I want to hear about Omar's body swaps though.
Yes.
Body swap freaks me out a little bit. Can I just be honest about that real quick?
Yeah.
Body swap a little freaky. If one of you swapped in my body, like if it ever does happen, if we ever Freaky Friday, like that's fine. Like I will not feel weird about it. But I just want to let you know, like if that were to happen, I would feel like a little like I would call me up, and I would call my number because you're in my and I'd be like, okay, like what do you want to eat? Like I gotta like take care of your body. So like with that in mind, I think I love Ulez is a superhero tourist. And I love that. And I feel like that's so fun. So I feel like hopping in and getting to like heal and meet people is really cool. Right. I also think that were I to get to portray Cadrax in some capacity, it fulfills two of my dreams. One is being a doctor who has a really interesting backstory, and the other is having a dog. So both of those would be really cool. The person I would be very intimidated to play is Benny, because Vion's whole thing is like Vion is on a path to be a good, if not better, man, and Benny is the best person I know. And I think it's in all like it's all in the quiet, subtle little moves that Caitlyn plays, and I know for a fact I would never be able to play that. So if I had to be Benny for a day, I would just be sweating and then catch on fire and then I would burn a building. I just feel like I don't know the first thing to do, and that's what would happen.
That's exactly why I'm so intimidated to play like any of these characters. Like I wish that I had the confidence in myself to know like I am kind enough to play Vion, but like Omar, it's there already so much that like I know that I would miss a moment that you never would. I know that like Caitlyn is inside of the person Benny is on like such a level and has just like so 3D this person, and as beautifully as she has communicated that to all of us in the text, that like I feel like I know who she is. I don't have that template that like I can load into necessarily. And like with Ulez, the absolute like I love playing curious plant loving aliens. That's like weirdly a thing that I love. And so maybe it's even the uncanny valley of it that I could never quite match the exquisite wonder that you bring. That like I consider myself a curious person, but like the joy that is paired with it, just and how that translates somehow authentically and organically into the interactions with the fauna as well, and how that somehow feels like a spectrum. Every single one of you intimidates me.
Know you.
And here's Rick playing half of Hollywood.
Yeah,
I would like to highlight that.
He is Meryl Streep, it's true.
If I were to cast this person be Meryl Streep, now I will be Meryl Streep. That is Rick every 5 minutes in Power Play.
You know, I just want to throw out there, just to call back to something that Caitlyn said before, which is that, you know, just caught my attention. It's not a question, you know, or an answer to anything. It's just like Caitlyn suggested we do this stars and wishes after every game.
I think it was B, actually.
Was it B?
Yeah, B.
Okay.
Yeah.
B suggested we do stars
I make
and
all
wishes
my
after.
players do that.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's like, speaking as a GM, it is utterly brilliant and the most amazing and useful thing. It's like, sit down for a few minutes after each game with the players and just have everybody sort of talk about what they loved that everyone did and what they kind of want to happen in the future. And it's like, it's such a window into how everybody feels about what's going on and where everybody thinks everything is going. And it's like, it's become, you know, so much of an important part of like keeping like the beating heart of this show going is knowing that like that this person loves it when that happens and this person's expecting this or wants this, or and it's just, I cannot say, you know, to the GMs out there, you know, I cannot endorse enough, do this in your games. It's like, it is worth taking 10 minutes out of a session and shortening your session by 10 minutes to just have everybody sit around and share this kind of information, because it's like, I mean, whether or not people are having fun in the games is honestly the most important thing about any game, more than if you're following the rules and more than if the continuity is holding together or anything else. It's just like, if people are enjoying themselves is really, you know, what it is all about. It's what makes it a game, you know, as opposed to like, you know, paying a bunch of actors to sit around and you know.
And that's so much the difference. So like really quickly, if folks aren't familiar, stars and wishes, stars are something you want to highlight. Stars are like, what was that golden star in this session? What do you want to slap a gold star on their forehead, on their shirt, give them a little badge. And as a GM and as a player, stars are really important because somebody once told me that it's not the entire game that you remember, it's the moments that stand out to you that make those games memorable. So stars are a way for us all to kind of have that post-game conversation about the moments that stuck out to us personally. Because as we talk, we all have very different perspectives of this game, and we all absorb like different things very uniquely. And I absolutely love hearing what Omar enjoyed or what Sam enjoyed or like how much Caitlin loves something. And then a wish is, as a GM, it is your best hacking tool. A wish is something you wish you would have done, you wish you would have seen, or you wish you would like to see. So sometimes a player might regret doing something, and we can express at the end of the game, like, I wish Ulez had done such and such. And then Rick can put into his brain, like, okay, maybe I can create an opportunity for that in the future. Often our wishes are something as lovely as, like, we need a Benny and Kadrak's training montage. I need them. Like, I need like a team, like a matchup or something that is just going to be absolutely delightful. And that is a wish that has been projected enough. So it's onto our illustrious GM to kind of craft that into the reality of the world that is already established. And it is just like a wonderful way to create that post-game conversation that I think players and GMs need. Like, Rick, we give you a space for stars and wishes too, because your input is just as valuable.
No, my input is worthless, but the rest of that was all dead on.
Imagine our stars and wishes only taking 10 minutes, though.
Oh,
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
Did you hear when he said
hours.
that?
Yeah.
Gentle
Like,
chat,
literally-
it is an
literally 2
hour.
hours.
I am
So
always late to my next game. I have accepted that at this point. But just to pile on a little bit on B, because they say many, many true things, it is the best tool that I have learned from playing at an RPG table in years, probably. And it is a beautiful practice to position your players to be fans of one another. That is such a great mindset to get all of your players into. It's great. I mean, I confess, it is very easy to be fans of these people. That's probably why the Stars and Wishes take so dang long. But it's just nice to go into a table with all y'all and get to hear things that make other people happy. Like, it's a very, very nice virtuous cycle of a table vibe.
Yeah, in all fairness, sometimes it does take a little longer than 10 minutes, but it's worth at least a quick version. So thank you, B, so much for making that a part of Power Play.
Yeah.
All right, we got 9 minutes left, so real quick here. There's no way we're going to get into all of these, but Fluffy Boat wants to know, how much do you love the chat mods? So, yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, honestly, it's like the mods are the real heroes of Power Play. It's like, our superheroes are fictional. The mods are the ones who are actually out there towing the line. So, yeah, it's like, seriously, we love you all so much. And like I always say every week, and I know it starts to sound canned, but it's like we could not do what we do without mods, because the internet is a freaking hellhole. And it's, mods are the ones who make, Twitter and Twitch, a place that people can enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to shower some love on the mods?
Twitter doesn't have mods. That's why it's not a place people can enjoy.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a site of displeasure.
Uh-huh.
I'll say this really quickly, and I'll try not to get like too mushy. There is something very special about the show. We talk about it a lot, like after when we're doing Stars and Wishes, but there, like, I want to say it on camera, like on stream. Genuinely, there's something so wonderful and special about this show. For us, when we're doing it, for us afterwards, I can only speak for us because we talk, but like also just like the general community, the fact that Vion gets to have a book that people like interact with. I think there is something very important here, and it's so wonderful that the mods allow for that space and protect. Not allow is passive; it is active. It is an action that you do. It is a choice that you make. And I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone who is positively affected by it, and it is only positive effect. So thank you very much. It means more, I think, than we probably could put into words. But that was the best I could do.
That was pretty good, man. So Yeah, okay, let's see. 7 minutes left. Real quick, Omar, speaking of your book, where did Vion get the idea for the book that Omar is writing? Asks Gemini Lightning.
Hi, Gemini Lightning. A wedding that Vion went to in Boston. And then Vion's friends decided to leave a day early, so Vion got to take public transportation, which they were too scared to take around Boston around Halloween time. And then he went to Salem and had a great time and just wandered around. And that's all of that. It just, yeah, all of that.
Oh, you really had an answer for that one.
Yeah. I mean, again, this happened to Vion. Omar would never complain about the fact that his friends were too scared to take public transportation, even though a stop in JP was just too. It's fine. It's fine. It was all fine. And that's all. It's a Vion's life. It's not mine.
And Bandison wants to know how many pair of glasses you own.
That's so funny.
Yes. Look at your glasses today. They are so yellow. Such a good color on you.
Thank you very much. That is very nice of you to say, B. Thank you. I'll wear it more often. Let's see. Inside my room right now, they're in my closet, but probably 10 pairs, I think. To match outfits. What? It's been a quarantine. You only see this. What else am I gonna invest in? Okay.
No, totally. I don't wear them, so I don't know what a normal number is. So that's a normal number.
Thank you, Sam. Thank
Omar,
you.
I'll have to show you my collection of ridiculous sunglasses.
Yeah!
What?
That's the thing that I do.
You are out of control, Caitlin.
I have a new one. It glows.
Every time I see a picture of you, it's new sunglasses. What are those even? Why are you so cool?
Beauty.
Oh,
Pure beauty.
Fun. B was playing the robot.
This is for my
Ready for the body swap. Prepared.
yes.
But I
Wow.
love that you collect sunglasses. I used to collect just regular glasses. Caitlin, I collect sunglasses. You have a bunch of glasses. That's very fun. I think glasses are fun accessory pieces. I think they're cool.
It's fun. They go
I
on
have
your
one
nose.
pair of glasses. If these break, I am dead. So let's see, 5 minutes. Okay, you know what? There's no way we're getting to all this. So the last question I think we're going to take for the night comes from our amazing friend Daly Dale, who wants to know, have we all sung happy birthday to Omar?
Is this so we sing it right now? Hold on. Is this song public domain yet?
It's not, so I guess we can't.
Can we sing it like weirdly off key and like in a different song tune?
Well,
I mean, we
okay,
can certainly
so the thing is,
recite it,
we can't
yeah.
get automatically DMCA'd unless we are algorithmically matched to a pre-existing recording. By singing as ourselves, we don't match a recording. It's one of the reasons why if you sing a song poorly enough or you flex on it hard enough, you're not going to get picked up by the algorithm. That's separate from the copyright issue, but the algorithm isn't going to ding you. So someone would manually have to find out about it if it were. I'm
wait,
not
hang on
even
a
a former lawyer here.
I need to ask something here before we go through with this. Omar, and I should know this. I'm a shitty friend, I guess. Is it really your birthday, or is Dale just fucking with you?
Oh, as much as I want to come, because Dale often does that. But this is true. It was yesterday, and I disappeared into the desert for it. I wanted to vanish
can
into
we
the
end
heat.
this on a birthday
think-
celebration for Omar?
Yeah, honestly, it's like, all right, I think we should sing happy birthday to Omar as off key and non-rhythmically as we possibly can to make
We're going to be out of
sure
sync for audio reasons, so it's going to be a nightmare
well,
audio anyway.
we absolutely don't want to take any chances. So, 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear
Omar.
Happy birthday to
you and many more.
I hope that was listenable. I'm so sorry, y'all. Oh, look at it.
I wish I was sorry.
There you go.
So it's happy birthday
Yeah.
on it.
Ah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Honestly, I think that is a just terrifying note to go out on, but it's kind of perfect. So I want to thank Caitlin and Sam and B and Omar, and I want to thank Darren DePaul and Amy Dallin and Eddie Doty and Laser Weber and Ravity Domse and Draconique and Markia McCarty and Max Isaacson and Dale Kingsmill and Gina DeVivo and that everybody who has been on Power Play and Jake and Lauren and the mods at QueueTimes who make this whole thing possible. And of course, you, the people who, came here to listen to all these answers and questions and stuff and come to watch us be ridiculous every week. I don't think I can ever properly sum up in words how much this all means to me. And, and maybe there's people that, here together, but we seriously love y'all. And thank you so much. And we will see you next week for the season 3 premiere of Power Play. And I guess that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for playing with us. Good night.